The sun bleeds crimson onto the marble, staining the very stones of ancient Greece with the hues of a dying god. A civilization famed for its sculptures of idealized beauty, its soaring temples dedicated to reason, yet shadowed, perpetually shadowed, by a fascination with suffering, a relentless pursuit of enlightenment forged in the fires of pain. We stand at the precipice of a paradox, a chasm yawning between the sunlit heights of Olympus and the abyss of human endurance. This is a journey into the heart of that darkness, a descent into the shadowed corners of a culture where the path to spiritual illumination was paved, not with roses, but with thorns. Prepare yourselves, for we are about to explore a world where the whispers of the gods mingled with the screams of the tortured, where the pursuit of inner peace was inextricably linked to the infliction of unimaginable agony. Forget the sanitized narratives, the romanticized visions of philosophers debating under olive trees. This is the raw, brutal truth. A story etched in blood and sweat, in the broken bodies and shattered minds of those who dared to seek transcendence through torment. The air hangs heavy with the scent of myrrh and mortality, a suffocating blend of incense and the coppery tang of blood. The echoes of screams, long silenced by the passage of millennia, still resonate in the shadowed corners of our minds. We will delve into the practices, the beliefs, the very essence of a civilization that saw pain not as an enemy to be avoided, but as a crucible in which the soul could be refined, purified, elevated. We will uncover the techniques, the subtle and not so subtle methods employed to push the human spirit to its absolute breaking point, to shatter the ego and unveil the divine spark within. We will witness the psychological warfare waged against the body and the mind, a relentless assault designed to break down the barriers of the self, to strip away the illusions of comfort and security. This is not a tale for the faint of heart. The images we will conjure, the stories we will tell, will linger in your memory long after the final word is spoken. For this is not merely a historical account. It is an exploration of the darkest corners of the human psyche, a confrontation with the enduring question of suffering and its unsettling relationship with spiritual growth. The path ahead is treacherous, winding through landscapes of pain and despair, but at its heart lies a profound and unsettling truth about the human condition, a truth that continues to resonate even in our supposedly enlightened age. Are you ready to begin? Are you brave enough to face the shadows of Olympus? Because the journey we are about to undertake will leave an indelible mark upon your soul. The descent begins now. Before the systematic horrors, before the meticulously crafted instruments of torture, before the codified rituals of pain, there were whispers, murmurs in the wind, echoes in the caves, nascent ideas taking root in the fertile soil of pre-Socratic thought. These were the seeds of ascesis, the rigorous self-discipline that would later blossom into a full-blown obsession with suffering as a path to enlightenment. We must delve into these early stirrings, these shadowy preludes to the darker chapters yet to come. Imagine the stark landscapes of ancient Greece, the rugged terrain mirroring the harsh realities of existence. The philosophers, cloaked in the twilight of nascent thought, wrestled with the fundamental questions of being, existence, and the nature of the soul. They sought answers not in the comforts of opulent palaces, but in the austere simplicity of nature, in the relentless rhythm of the seasons, in the cyclical dance of life and death. Pythagoras, with his mystical emphasis on number and harmony, laid the groundwork for a philosophy that valued self-control and purification. His followers, adhering to strict dietary restrictions and rigorous physical training, foreshadowed the later emphasis on bodily mortification as a means of spiritual advancement. The body, in their view, was not merely a vessel for the soul, but a battlefield, a site of constant struggle between the baser instincts and the higher aspirations. Heraclitus, the enigmatic Dark One, spoke of the ever-changing nature of reality, the constant flux that demanded adaptability and resilience. His philosophy, with its emphasis on overcoming opposition and embracing the dynamic forces of the universe, laid the groundwork for a worldview in which suffering became not an obstacle to be overcome, but a necessary component of growth and transformation. Parmenides, with his emphasis on the unchanging nature of being, offered a contrasting perspective. Yet, even his philosophy, with its focus on reason and intellectual rigor, hinted at the importance of mental discipline and the arduous process of intellectual self-mastery. The pursuit of truth, he implied, required a relentless struggle against the illusions of the senses, a rigorous training of the mind capable of enduring the discomfort of challenging established beliefs. These early thinkers, though diverse in their approaches, shared a common thread: the belief in the transformative power of self-discipline. They recognized the importance of taming the unruly impulses of the body and mind, of subjecting the self to rigorous training, not for the sake of physical prowess alone, but as a means of achieving a higher state of consciousness. These early seeds of ascesis, sown in the fertile ground of pre-Socratic thought, would eventually germinate and flourish, culminating in the more extreme practices of later centuries. But even in these nascent expressions, we can glimpse the dark, unsettling undercurrent that would shape the Greek understanding of suffering and its role in the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The whispers of the past are calling, leading us further into the shadows. The path to understanding is paved with pain, and the journey has only just begun. The whispers of the pre-Socratics gave way to a more potent, more visceral expression of the body's burden in the Orphic mysteries. These secretive rites, shrouded in an aura of both fascination and fear, offered a compelling narrative of the soul's journey, a narrative inextricably linked to suffering and purification. The body, far from being a mere vessel, became the battleground for a cosmic struggle, a prison from which the soul desperately sought liberation. Imagine the hushed darkness of the initiation chamber, the flickering torchlight casting long, dancing shadows on the initiates' faces. The air, thick with incense and anticipation, hums with a palpable energy, a potent mixture of dread and exhilaration. These were not mere rituals. They were visceral experiences designed to shatter the ego, to confront the initiates with the raw, unvarnished reality of their mortality. The Orphic mythos, with its tale of Dionysus's dismemberment and resurrection, provided the framework for this harrowing journey. Just as the god was torn apart and reborn, so too must the initiate undergo a process of symbolic death and rebirth, a shedding of the old self to make way for the new. This process was not gentle. It was a brutal confrontation with the limitations of the flesh, a deliberate immersion in the darkness of the self. Purification, in the Orphic worldview, was not a passive process. It was an active struggle, a relentless battle against the impurities that clung to the soul, hindering its ascent to the divine. Fasting, self-flagellation, and other forms of bodily mortification were not merely acts of penance, but potent symbolic gestures aimed at purging the body of its earthly taint, preparing it for the ultimate transformation. The body, in this context, was both a prison and a pathway. A prison because it trapped the soul, weighed it down with earthly desires and limitations. A pathway because it could be disciplined, purified, and ultimately transcended. The initiates, through their rigorous practices, sought to liberate their souls from the confines of the flesh, to escape the cyclical trap of birth, death, and rebirth. The Orphic mysteries, therefore, represent a significant step in the evolution of the Greek understanding of suffering. It was no longer merely a matter of self-discipline, but a deeply spiritual endeavor, a ritualistic journey towards liberation. The body, once simply a vessel, became a battlefield, a site of profound transformation, a crucible in which the soul was refined through fire. The path to spiritual enlightenment, they believed, was paved with pain, and the Orphic rituals provided a roadmap for navigating this treacherous terrain. The echoes of their practices reverberate through the ages, reminding us of the enduring power of suffering to shape our understanding of the self and our place in the cosmos. The journey continues, deeper into the shadows. While the Orphic mysteries embraced extreme suffering as a path to spiritual liberation, Aristotle, the meticulous observer of the human condition, offered a more nuanced perspective. His philosophy, grounded in empirical observation and logical reasoning, sought a middle ground, a golden mean, between extremes of pleasure and pain. Yet, even in his measured approach, the shadow of suffering looms large, shaping the individual's journey towards virtue. Aristotle, unlike the Orphic mystics, didn't advocate for self-flagellation or ritualistic pain. His focus was on the cultivation of virtue through the deliberate practice of moderation. He believed that the soul, while intimately connected to the body, possessed a capacity for reason and self-control, a capacity that could be honed through experience, both pleasurable and painful. Pain, for Aristotle, was not an end in itself, but a crucial element in the development of virtuous character. It served as a teacher, a harsh but necessary guide on the path to ethical excellence. Through experiencing pain, the pain of failure, the pain of loss, the pain of confronting one's own flaws, the individual learns to navigate the complexities of human existence with wisdom and restraint. This was not a passive acceptance of suffering, but an active engagement with it, a process of learning and growth. Consider the pain of overcoming laziness, of pushing oneself beyond comfortable limits to achieve a worthy goal. This pain, Aristotle would argue, is not to be avoided, but rather embraced as an essential catalyst for personal growth. It is in the struggle, in the confrontation with our own limitations, that we discover our true potential, forging a resilient and virtuous character. Aristotle's concept of the soul is equally intriguing. He viewed the soul not as a separate entity, imprisoned within the body, but as the form or essence of the living organism. The soul, in this context, is inextricably linked to the body, its capacities and limitations shaped by the physical realm. The body, therefore, is not a hindrance to spiritual development, but an essential instrument, a tool to be honed and refined through the pursuit of virtue. The pursuit of virtue, in Aristotle's view, is a lifelong process, a constant striving for the golden mean between excess and deficiency. It is a path paved not just with pleasure, but also with the necessary discomfort of self-improvement, a path that demands resilience, discipline, and a willingness to confront the shadows within. His measured approach, while seemingly less dramatic than the Orphic mysteries, reveals a profound understanding of suffering's transformative power, its ability to sculpt the soul and shape the character of the individual. The pursuit of the mean, however, is a constant balancing act, a precarious dance on the edge of chaos, where the slightest misstep can plunge one into the abyss. The journey is fraught with peril, even for the most disciplined mind. Aristotle's concept of eudaimonia, often translated as flourishing or living well, lies at the heart of his ethical philosophy. It's not merely the absence of pain, but a state of profound well-being achieved through the cultivation of virtue and the pursuit of a life lived in accordance with reason. This pursuit, however, is not a passive endeavor. It requires a constant engagement with both pleasure and pain, a careful navigation of the human experience in all its complexity. For Aristotle, eudaimonia isn't a destination but a journey, a continuous striving towards excellence. It demands self-awareness, discipline, and a willingness to confront the shadows within. The path to flourishing is not always smooth. It is often fraught with obstacles, setbacks, and the inevitable sting of failure. These experiences, while painful, are not to be shunned but embraced as opportunities for growth, as crucial lessons in the art of living well. Imagine the agonizing process of mastering a skill, the countless hours of practice, the repeated failures, the crushing weight of self-doubt. This is the crucible in which character is forged, the dark furnace where the soul is refined. It is through these trials, through the careful management of pain and pleasure, that one approaches the elusive state of eudaimonia. Aristotle's approach stands in stark contrast to the hedonistic pursuit of pleasure alone. He recognized the seductive power of immediate gratification, the alluring whispers of indolence and self-indulgence. Yet, he also understood that a life devoted solely to pleasure is ultimately shallow and unfulfilling, a fleeting illusion that leaves one empty and vulnerable. True flourishing, he argued, requires a balanced approach, a careful cultivation of virtues such as courage, temperance, justice, and wisdom. These virtues are not innate, but are developed through practice and experience, often through the painful process of overcoming our weaknesses and confronting our flaws. The path to virtue is a path of self-discovery, a journey into the labyrinth of the human soul, a journey that requires courage and resilience. The echoes of Aristotle's philosophy resonate even in modern conceptions of well-being. Contemporary therapeutic practices, such as cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), emphasize the importance of confronting negative thoughts and emotions, of actively challenging self-defeating patterns of behavior. This process, while often painful and uncomfortable, is essential for achieving lasting mental health and personal growth. Similarly, mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR) encourages individuals to cultivate awareness of their present experience, including both physical sensations and emotional states, allowing them to approach challenges with greater equanimity and resilience. The enduring relevance of Aristotle's ideas lies in his recognition of suffering's transformative potential. It is not the avoidance of pain that leads to flourishing, but the skillful management of it, the ability to learn from adversity, to grow stronger through struggle, and to emerge from the crucible of experience with a deeper understanding of oneself and the world. The path to eudaimonia is a path through the shadows, a journey into the heart of darkness, where the soul is tested and refined, ultimately emerging stronger and more resilient. This is the dark, mysterious path to a flourishing life, a life lived in accordance with reason, virtue, and the delicate balance between pain and pleasure. While Aristotle championed a life of virtuous striving, even amidst hardship, Epicurus offered a different path to tranquility, a path that sought to minimize suffering and maximize pleasure. His philosophy, Epicureanism, wasn't about hedonistic indulgence, but a calculated pursuit of ataraxia, a state of serene tranquility free from mental disturbance and bodily pain. This wasn't the fleeting pleasure of the senses, but a deep, enduring peace achieved through careful self-management. Imagine a life free from the anxieties of ambition, the gnawing fears of mortality, the torment of unfulfilled desires. This was the vision of Epicurus, a vision achieved not through the embrace of suffering, but through its calculated avoidance. He understood the power of pain, the insidious grip of fear, the corrosive nature of unchecked desire. His philosophy was a strategy for navigating the treacherous currents of human existence, a map charting a course towards the serene shores of ataraxia. Unlike the rigorous self-discipline advocated by the Orphics or the virtuous struggle championed by Aristotle, Epicurus emphasized the importance of moderation and the cultivation of simple pleasures. He urged his followers to cultivate friendships, to engage in intellectual pursuits, and to live a life free from the anxieties of wealth and social standing. These were the pillars upon which ataraxia was built, the cornerstones of a life lived in harmony with nature and oneself. The Epicurean path to tranquility involved a careful assessment of pleasures and pains. Not all pleasures were equal. Some were fleeting and ultimately unsatisfying, leading to greater suffering in their absence. True pleasure, Epicurus argued, was found in the absence of pain, in a state of contentment and inner peace. This wasn't a passive acceptance of fate, but an active pursuit of a life free from unnecessary anxieties and disturbances. The shadows of fear and anxiety, Epicurus believed, were the greatest obstacles to ataraxia. Fear of death, fear of the gods, fear of social disapproval, these were the insidious forces that plagued the human soul, preventing the attainment of true tranquility. To overcome these fears, Epicurus offered a rational approach, based on careful observation and logical reasoning. He urged his followers to examine their beliefs critically, to challenge unfounded assumptions, and to cultivate a clear understanding of the natural world. This intellectual clarity, this rational approach to life, was essential to achieving ataraxia. By understanding the nature of the world and our place within it, we could free ourselves from the grip of unfounded fears and anxieties. The path to tranquility, therefore, was not a path of suffering, but a path of knowledge, a journey of intellectual liberation. It was a quiet escape from the tumultuous currents of life, a retreat into the serene sanctuary of the mind. The contrast between Epicurus and Aristotle highlights the diverse approaches to well-being within ancient Greek thought. While Aristotle saw virtue emerging from the crucible of struggle, Epicurus sought tranquility through the careful management of pleasure and the avoidance of pain. Both philosophies, however, offer valuable insights into the human condition, reminding us of the enduring quest for a life lived in harmony with ourselves and the world around us. The pursuit of eudaimonia, in all its varied forms, remains a testament to the enduring human desire for meaning, purpose, and a life free from the incessant torment of the soul. While the Orphic mysteries and other ascetic traditions embraced rigorous self-denial as a path to spiritual liberation, Epicureanism offered a starkly different approach to self-discipline. Was it a form of ascesis? In a way, yes, but a far gentler, more nuanced one. Instead of the harsh flagellation of the body, the Epicurean path involved a careful cultivation of the mind and a strategic management of desires. Their self-control wasn't born of self-flagellation, but from a reasoned understanding of pleasure and pain. Imagine the stark contrast, the self-mortification of the Orphic initiates, their bodies enduring pain as a testament to their devotion, compared to the Epicureans' measured pursuit of pleasure, their self-control a shield against unnecessary suffering. Both sought a form of inner peace, but their methodologies were diametrically opposed. One embraced the darkness, the other sought to navigate it with reason and restraint. The Epicurean path to tranquility wasn't paved with thorns, but with a careful cultivation of simple pleasures and the avoidance of excessive desires. This wasn't a rejection of self-discipline, but a refinement of it. It was a form of ascesis, but one that prioritized mental and emotional well-being over physical endurance. Their self-control wasn't about suppressing natural desires, but about understanding their limits and avoiding those that lead to long-term pain. The indulgence in fleeting pleasures was seen not as a virtue, but as a path toward deeper dissatisfaction. True pleasure, for the Epicureans, was a quiet contentment, a deep-seated tranquility that stemmed from a life lived in harmony with nature and reason. This approach contrasts sharply with the austere practices of other schools of thought. The Cynics, for example, embraced poverty and hardship as a means of achieving self-sufficiency and freedom from worldly attachments. But the Epicureans saw this as unnecessary suffering, a path that led to discomfort without necessarily bringing about spiritual enlightenment. The Epicurean emphasis on friendship also reveals a different form of self-discipline. Cultivating meaningful relationships required self-awareness, empathy, and the ability to manage one's own emotions. It demanded self-control, not in the form of physical deprivation, but in the art of social interaction, the delicate dance of human connection. The Epicurean approach to self-discipline wasn't a denial of the body, but a careful management of its desires. It wasn't a rejection of pleasure, but a discerning approach to its pursuit. It was a subtle art, a quiet revolution against the self-inflicted pain of excessive ambition and the relentless pursuit of unattainable ideals. It was a path to tranquility, not through the embrace of suffering, but through its intelligent avoidance. And in that avoidance, a different kind of strength emerged, the strength of self-mastery, not through the brute force of physical endurance, but through the quiet power of reason and self-awareness. This subtle, almost hidden form of ascesis reveals a different facet of the ancient Greek pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, a testament to the fact that the path to the divine can take many forms, some dark and arduous, others surprisingly gentle and serene. The flickering lamplight casts long shadows across the scrolls, illuminating the Stoic philosophy, a stark contrast to the ecstatic cries of the Orphic initiates. While others sought enlightenment through ritualistic pain, the Stoics found virtue in enduring what they could not control, a philosophy as chillingly resolute as the winter winds whipping across the Aegean. Pain, to them, was not a path to enlightenment, but a crucible in which virtue was forged. Imagine the stark, unforgiving landscape of the Stoic soul. No gentle whispers of divine grace, no ecstatic visions of transcendence. Only the cold, hard reality of existence, a reality that included suffering, loss, and the inevitable decay of the flesh. Yet within this bleakness, they found a peculiar strength, a quiet resilience that stemmed from their acceptance of what lay beyond their control. Stoicism wasn't a passive resignation to fate. It was an active engagement with adversity. It demanded a rigorous self-discipline, not through self-inflicted pain, but through a relentless honing of reason and a steadfast commitment to virtue. Pain, to the Stoic, was not something to be avoided, but a test of character, a challenge to be met with unwavering fortitude. Picture a Stoic philosopher, bound and tortured, his body racked with agony. Yet, in his mind, a serene calm prevails. He doesn't flinch, doesn't cry out in anguish. He understands that the pain is external, a fleeting assault on his physical body, but it cannot touch his inner citadel, the fortress of his reason and virtue. This is the essence of Stoic endurance, a mastery of the self that transcends physical suffering. The Stoics believed that true freedom wasn't the absence of pain, but the mastery over one's reaction to it. It was the ability to remain unshaken in the face of adversity, to find inner peace amidst the chaos of the external world. Their philosophy was not a path to ecstatic union with the divine, but a path to self-mastery, a path forged in the fires of suffering and adversity. This perspective challenges the very notion of spiritual enlightenment as a transcendent escape from the earthly realm. For the Stoics, enlightenment was not about transcending the physical world, but about mastering it, about finding peace and purpose within its harsh realities. It was about finding virtue not in the absence of pain, but in the unwavering face presented to it. This unflinching gaze into the abyss, this acceptance of suffering not as a path to liberation, but as an unavoidable aspect of human existence, reveals a different understanding of spiritual growth. It's not about escaping pain, but about confronting it, mastering it, and ultimately finding strength within its crucible. The Stoics' serenity, forged in the fires of adversity, offers a different, perhaps even more profound, path to spiritual fulfillment. It is a path less traveled, darker, and arguably more demanding, yet potentially more rewarding for those who can endure its chilling embrace. The flickering candlelight dances across the aged parchment, revealing the enigmatic word apatheia, not the absence of feeling, as some might mistakenly believe, but a freedom from the tyranny of uncontrolled passions. This chilling concept, central to Stoic philosophy, offers a chilling path to inner peace, a path paved with the endurance of suffering. Imagine a mind, a fortress besieged by the relentless onslaught of emotions, fear, anger, grief, desire. These are the passions, the turbulent currents that threaten to capsize the fragile vessel of the self. The Stoics saw these passions not as inherently evil, but as irrational disturbances, clouding judgment and hindering the pursuit of virtue. Apatheia, then, was not a suppression of feeling, but a cultivation of reason, a mastery over the emotional landscape. This mastery, however, wasn't achieved through simple self-control. It demanded a ruthless self-examination, a relentless scrutiny of one's thoughts and feelings. The Stoics believed that true freedom lay not in indulging in fleeting pleasures or succumbing to overwhelming emotions, but in understanding their nature and reining them in. This relentless self-discipline, this constant vigilance against the onslaught of emotion, was a form of spiritual warfare, a battle fought within the very core of the self. Picture the Stoic philosopher not in the arena of physical combat, but on a battlefield of the mind. His enemy is not a flesh-and-blood opponent, but the tempestuous sea of his own emotions. He wages war not with sword and shield, but with reason and self-control, enduring the relentless assault of pain, loss, and disappointment, not with a stoic acceptance, but with a conscious, deliberate mastery over his response. The connection between apatheia and the endurance of suffering is profound. The Stoics believed that by facing adversity without succumbing to emotional turmoil, one could discover a deeper sense of inner peace, a tranquility that transcended the vicissitudes of life. Pain to them was not an obstacle to be avoided, but a test of their mastery over their emotions, a crucible in which their resilience was refined. This pursuit of apatheia was not a passive resignation to fate, but an active engagement with the world. It demanded a constant awareness of one's thoughts and feelings, a relentless self-discipline, and a commitment to living virtuously, regardless of the external circumstances. It was a path less traveled, a path demanding a chilling level of self-control, but one that promised an inner peace far surpassing the fleeting pleasures of the senses. The chilling beauty of Stoicism lies in its stark honesty about the nature of human suffering. It doesn't offer a comforting escape from the harsh realities of existence, but a path to navigate them with a strength and serenity born from the mastery of one's own mind. The pursuit of apatheia, therefore, is not an avoidance of pain, but a confrontation with it, a triumph over the emotional chaos that threatens to overwhelm us. It's a chilling journey, but potentially a rewarding one. The path to inner peace, for the Stoics, was not an escape from the world, but a mastery of it, a mastery won through the cultivation of apatheia. The chill wind whispers secrets through the crumbling ruins, secrets of a time when the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment led down paths of deliberate, self-inflicted pain. Ascesis, the ancient Greek practice of self-discipline, was not a gentle path, but a harrowing journey into the depths of human endurance. It was a deliberate embrace of suffering, a ritualistic tearing down of the self to build something different. Imagine the stark landscape, the biting wind, the relentless sun beating down upon bare skin. This was the environment in which many practiced ascesis, willingly exposing themselves to the elements, their bodies becoming instruments of their spiritual striving. Not a casual discomfort, but a deliberate stripping away of the comforts of the flesh, a calculated assault on the physical self. Fasting, a cornerstone of ascesis, wasn't simply abstaining from food. It was a starvation of the ego, a suppression of the body's demands. The gnawing hunger, the debilitating weakness, were not obstacles to be overcome, but tools to be wielded. The body, weakened and humbled, was seen as a vessel to be purified, emptied of its earthly desires, ready to receive a higher spiritual reality. Then there's the chilling image of self-flagellation, the deliberate infliction of pain upon the flesh. The lashing, the raw, throbbing agony was not simply an act of self-punishment, but a ritualistic cleansing, a symbolic shedding of impurities. Each strike of the whip was a step towards self-mastery, a brutal rejection of the flesh's demands, a desperate reaching for something beyond the physical realm. These practices weren't acts of madness, but deeply considered spiritual exercises. The pain, the deprivation, were not ends in themselves, but means to an end, a relentless pursuit of spiritual liberation. The goal was to transcend the limitations of the physical body, to break free from the chains of earthly desires, and achieve a state of heightened awareness, a connection to something beyond the mundane. The motivations behind these practices were complex, intertwined with religious beliefs, philosophical ideals, and the desire for self-transformation. For some, it was a form of penance, a way to atone for perceived sins or shortcomings. For others, it was a means of achieving a heightened state of consciousness, a mystical union with the divine. And for many, it was a way to test their own limits, to push themselves beyond the boundaries of human endurance, proving their commitment to their spiritual quest. These practices, viewed through a modern lens, may seem extreme, even barbaric. Yet, within the context of ancient Greek spirituality, they represent a powerful and chilling testament to the human capacity for self-sacrifice, the relentless pursuit of enlightenment, and the willingness to endure unimaginable pain in the quest for spiritual liberation. The echoes of their suffering resonate even today, a stark reminder of the lengths to which humans will go in their search for meaning and transcendence. The whispers of the wind through the ruins still carry the chilling truth of their unwavering commitment. This was not mere self-harm, but a calculated, ritualistic striving for something beyond. The path of the ascetic was not for the faint of heart. It demanded a level of physical and mental fortitude that pushed the boundaries of human endurance. Imagine the relentless pounding of the sun on exposed skin, the gnawing emptiness of prolonged fasting, the searing pain of self-flagellation. This was not merely discomfort, it was a calculated assault on the physical self, a systematic dismantling of the body's desires. The physical demands of ascesis were designed to break the body, to humble it, to subdue its cravings and desires. Through fasting, the body was starved, its strength depleted, its will weakened. Through exposure to the elements, it was tested to its limits, its resilience pushed to the breaking point. Through self-flagellation, it was subjected to intense physical pain, its vulnerability laid bare. The aim was not simply to inflict pain, but to break the ego's hold on the body, to sever the connection between physical desire and spiritual yearning. But ascesis was not solely a physical ordeal. It demanded an equally rigorous mental discipline, a steely resolve to withstand the onslaught of physical suffering and emotional turmoil. The mind, like the body, had to be trained, controlled, and purified. Meditation, contemplation, and the recitation of sacred texts were used to cultivate mental clarity and focus. These practices aimed to quiet the mind's incessant chatter, to still the internal storm of emotions, and to achieve a state of profound inner peace. The transformation wrought by ascesis was not merely physical, it was profound and multifaceted. Physically, the body was weakened, humbled, and disciplined. Spiritually, the individual was stripped of their ego, their attachments, their desires. Their perception of reality shifted, their consciousness expanded. They were reborn, transmuted, purified. The ascetic ideal wasn't about achieving a state of blissful tranquility. It was about achieving a state of heightened awareness, a state of spiritual acuity, a state of radical self-knowledge. The pain, the hardship, the self-denial were not ends in themselves, but means to this end. They were stepping stones on a treacherous path leading towards a profound understanding of the self and a deeper connection to the divine. The ascetic's journey was a battle against the self, a war waged against the limitations of the flesh and the tyranny of the ego. It was a relentless pursuit of self-mastery, a quest for spiritual liberation, a desperate yearning to transcend the confines of the human condition. The physical and mental rigor of ascesis was not simply a test of endurance. It was a crucible in which the individual was forged anew, transformed, and ultimately enlightened. The echoes of their struggle, their sacrifices, and their unwavering commitment still reverberate through the ages. The ruins whisper of their intense dedication, a testament to the extraordinary lengths humans will go to in pursuit of transcendence. Their story is not a tale of mere suffering, but a chilling narrative of self-transformation, a dark and mystical journey into the depths of human potential and the relentless pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The path may have been harrowing, but the potential reward, immeasurable. The ancient Greeks, basking in the sun-drenched splendor of their civilization, also held a fascination, a near obsession, with suffering. It wasn't merely a grim reality to be endured, It was woven into the very fabric of their spiritual quests, a paradoxical element crucial to their pursuit of eudaimonia, that elusive state of flourishing. For many, suffering wasn't something to be avoided, but a path, a dark, arduous path, to enlightenment. Consider the Orphic mysteries, shrouded in secrecy and steeped in ritualistic hardship. Initiates endured trials designed to break them, to strip away the illusion of self, to confront the raw, primal forces within. These weren't mere symbolic rituals. They were visceral experiences, designed to push the individual to the very edge of their endurance, to force a confrontation with their deepest fears and vulnerabilities. The pain, the deprivation, the uncertainty, these were not obstacles to overcome, but essential components of the transformative process. The Stoics, with their emphasis on reason and virtue, viewed suffering differently, yet equally profoundly. For them, suffering wasn't a path to enlightenment in the mystical sense, but a crucible that tested the strength of their character. The ability to endure hardship with equanimity, without succumbing to despair or anger, was seen as the ultimate mark of virtue. Their goal was not to eliminate suffering, but to master it, to find strength within its embrace. The Stoic ideal, seemingly detached, reveals a chilling pragmatism. To accept the inevitable, to find fortitude in the face of adversity. However, not all ancient Greek philosophies embraced suffering as a necessary component of spiritual growth. Epicureanism, for instance, prioritized pleasure and the avoidance of pain. While not entirely rejecting the experience of suffering, Epicureans sought to minimize it, believing that tranquility and happiness could be achieved through careful management of one's life and the cultivation of meaningful relationships. Their path to eudaimonia was far less arduous, less dramatic than that of the Orphics or Stoics. The divergence of these philosophies highlights the complex and multifaceted nature of the ancient Greek relationship with suffering. It wasn't a monolithic view, but a spectrum of perspectives, each offering a unique approach to the human condition and the pursuit of spiritual fulfillment. Yet, even in the Epicurean emphasis on minimizing pain, a deeper truth emerges. The recognition that the journey to a fulfilling life is rarely straightforward, often requiring resilience and the ability to navigate inevitable challenges. The question remains, was suffering a necessary path? The answer, it seems, depends on which philosophical path one chooses to follow. The Orphic mysteries suggest an affirmative answer, a belief in suffering as a transformative force. The Stoics, while not explicitly advocating for suffering, implicitly endorse it as a test of character, a crucible for virtue. The Epicureans, however, offer a different perspective, suggesting that a life free from unnecessary pain is the ideal path to eudaimonia. Yet, the very existence of these varied perspectives reveals the enduring fascination and, perhaps, the quiet acceptance of suffering's pervasive presence in the human experience. This enduring question, this chilling contemplation of pain's role in the pursuit of self-discovery, continues to resonate through the ages, a haunting echo in the halls of philosophy and the very core of the human spirit. The shadow of suffering, it seems, forever dances on the periphery of enlightenment. Delve with me now into the shadowed heart of ancient Greece, where the ecstatic cries of Dionysus mingled with the groans of suffering, where religious fervor intertwined with physical pain in a terrifying dance of devotion. Dionysus, god of wine, ecstasy, and theater, presided over rituals that pushed the boundaries of human experience, blurring the line between pleasure and pain, transcendence and torment. These weren't mere celebrations, they were initiations, trials of faith, where the participants willingly submitted to experiences designed to shatter their sense of self and propel them into a state of altered consciousness. Imagine the frenzied dances, the wild abandon, the ecstatic frenzy that consumed the worshippers, the rhythmic pounding of drums, the shrill cries, the intoxicating aroma of wine. These sensory assaults prepared the body and mind for the ordeal to come. Self-flagellation, the infliction of wounds, the endurance of physical discomfort. These were not acts of self-harm, but acts of religious devotion, a visceral expression of faith and a desperate attempt to connect with the divine. The pain, far from being incidental, was central to the Dionysian experience. It was a means of breaking down the ego, of transcending the limitations of the ordinary self. Through the infliction and endurance of pain, the devotees sought to achieve a state of ecstatic union with the god, a temporary escape from the constraints of the rational mind. The suffering was a price paid for access to a higher state of being, a glimpse beyond the veil of everyday reality. These rituals weren't for the faint of heart. They demanded a willingness to surrender control, to embrace the chaotic and unpredictable nature of the Dionysian experience. The pain served as a catalyst, a force that shattered the boundaries of the conscious mind, allowing the participants to experience a profound sense of connection with the divine and with each other. The shared suffering forged a powerful bond, a sense of community rooted in the shared experience of ecstasy and pain. The Dionysian mysteries offer a chilling glimpse into the ancient Greek psyche, revealing a fascination with the transformative power of suffering. Unlike the controlled asceticism of other philosophical schools, the Dionysian rituals were characterized by a wild, untamed energy, a raw intensity that bordered on the chaotic. The rituals were not just about achieving spiritual insight. They were about experiencing a fundamental shift in consciousness, a temporary dissolution of the self. The shadow of Dionysus, therefore, represents a different path to spiritual understanding, one that eschews the rational and embraces the primal. It's a path that is at once terrifying and exhilarating, a journey into the depths of the human psyche, where the boundaries between ecstasy and pain, sanity and madness, become hopelessly blurred. The enduring legacy of these rituals lies not only in their historical significance, but also in their unsettling testament to the human capacity for both extreme devotion and self-inflicted torment in the pursuit of the divine. The echoes of those ecstatic cries, the lingering scent of wine and blood, continue to haunt the imagination, a reminder of the darker, more primal aspects of the ancient Greek spiritual landscape. The echoes of ancient suffering resonate surprisingly within the sterile confines of modern therapy. While the methods differ drastically, a chilling parallel exists between the ancient Greek pursuit of spiritual enlightenment through pain and the contemporary therapeutic approaches of cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, and mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. Both, in their own ways, engage with the power of discomfort to achieve a form of mental and emotional transformation. Consider the rigorous self-discipline inherent in ancient ascetic practices, the deliberate infliction of physical pain, the denial of basic comforts. These were considered tools to subdue the ego, to quiet the clamor of the flesh, and to achieve clarity of mind. This resonates with the core principles of CBT, which encourages confronting negative thought patterns and challenging ingrained behavioral responses. The discomfort of facing one's inner demons, of confronting deeply rooted anxieties, is a deliberate process designed to reshape the individual's mental landscape. The ancient Greeks sought this through physical hardship. We achieve it through controlled mental exercises. The similarities extend to MBSR. The practice of mindfulness involves focusing on the present moment, accepting thoughts and sensations without judgment. This, too, can be a profoundly uncomfortable experience. The mind, accustomed to escaping into distraction, resists the stillness. The body, trained to seek immediate gratification, rebels against the enforced calm. This resistance, this discomfort, is itself the path to understanding and ultimately to peace. The ancient Greek ascetic, enduring physical pain, and the modern mindfulness practitioner, confronting their internal chaos, both engage in a form of self-imposed discomfort as a means to transcend the limitations of their normal experience. However, the differences are stark. The ancient Greek approach, particularly in its more extreme forms, bordered on the ritualistic and often involved inflicted pain, even torture. The intent, however, wasn't necessarily malicious. It was a deeply spiritual endeavor, a path toward union with the divine. Modern therapeutic approaches, while demanding self-reflection and emotional confrontation, are rigorously ethical and prioritize the patient's well-being above all else. The discomfort is carefully managed within a framework of support and guidance. The aim is not to break the individual, but to help them heal. The comparison, therefore, is not a direct equivalence. The ancient Greeks, in their pursuit of spiritual growth, often embraced suffering in a way that would be considered unethical and potentially harmful today. Modern therapeutic practices, however, acknowledge the potential for discomfort in the healing process, but carefully regulate and control it within a safe and supportive environment. Nevertheless, the underlying principle remains that confronting discomfort, both internal and external, can be a catalyst for profound personal transformation. The shadows of ancient practices linger, reminding us of the enduring human need to grapple with suffering, to find meaning amidst pain, and to ultimately emerge stronger, even wiser, on the other side. The methods may have evolved, but the fundamental human drive towards self-mastery, even through adversity, persists. Delve with me now into the shadowed chambers of the ancient Greek psyche, where the lines between body, mind, and soul blurred, intertwined with the threads of pain and suffering. Their understanding of the human condition was far removed from our modern compartmentalized view, where the mind is treated as a separate entity from the body, and the soul, if acknowledged at all, exists in a realm beyond the physical. For the ancient Greeks, pain was not merely a physical sensation. It was a powerful force that could shape the character, test the spirit, and even unlock hidden depths of the self. The body was a vessel, a temple, and its suffering could be interpreted as a message, a sign from the gods, or a reflection of an inner imbalance. Illness, for example, was often seen not just as a biological malfunction, but as a manifestation of a spiritual or moral failing. Their understanding of psychological trauma, while not formalized as it is today, is evident in their literature and mythology. The epic poems, filled with tales of betrayal, loss, and violent conflict, depict individuals struggling with the long-term effects of profound emotional and physical suffering. The haunting narratives of Odysseus's journey, or the tragic fate of Ajax, reveal characters grappling with profound psychological distress, marked by fits of rage, despair, and ultimately, self-destruction. These weren't simply plots. They reflected a deep understanding of the lasting impact of trauma on the human psyche. The concept of hubris, excessive pride leading to downfall, also hints at a rudimentary understanding of psychological vulnerability. The devastating consequences of unchecked ambition and arrogance suggest an awareness of the mental fragility that can accompany unchecked power. The tragic heroes, often brought low by their own flaws, serve as cautionary tales, highlighting the potential for psychological collapse even in the face of outward strength and success. While the Greeks lacked the sophisticated diagnostic tools of modern psychology, their keen observation of human behavior and their rich symbolic language allowed them to explore the complexities of the human mind in profound ways. Through their art, literature, and philosophical inquiries, they grappled with the enduring questions of suffering, resilience, and the search for meaning in a world often marked by pain and loss. Their engagement with these themes, though expressed through a different lens, offers a surprisingly relevant perspective on the enduring human struggle with psychological trauma and the ongoing quest for inner peace. The echoes of their struggles resonate even now, a testament to the timeless nature of the human condition. The darkness they explored continues to cast its long shadow across our own understanding of the mind, the soul, and the enduring power of pain. The ancient Greek approach to pain, while offering a path toward what they perceived as spiritual enlightenment, walked a precarious tightrope between healing and harm. The crucible of suffering, while potentially forging strength and resilience, also held the capacity for irrevocable damage. Their methods, often shrouded in mystery and ritual, lacked the safeguards and understanding of modern psychology. The line between intentional self-discipline and self-destruction could blur, leaving a trail of broken minds and shattered spirits in its wake. Consider the Orphic mysteries, with their emphasis on ritualistic self-mortification. While the intention may have been to achieve a transcendent union with the divine, the methods employed, the self-inflicted pain, the ecstatic frenzy, could easily have tipped into the realm of psychological trauma. The deliberate suppression of the self, the relentless pushing of the body and mind to their breaking points, could have resulted in lasting mental scars, masked by the veneer of spiritual attainment. The Stoics, with their emphasis on enduring suffering with fortitude, also walked a fine line. While their philosophy championed self-control and resilience, the unwavering acceptance of hardship, without the crucial element of emotional processing or support, could have led to suppressed trauma, manifesting in insidious ways. The internalization of pain, without the opportunity for catharsis or healing, could have created a fertile ground for mental illness. The very concept of ascesis, the rigorous self-discipline practiced by many ancient Greeks, holds a double-edged quality. While it aimed at purifying the soul and strengthening the spirit, the extreme forms of self-denial and physical hardship could have inflicted significant psychological damage. The relentless pursuit of self-improvement, divorced from compassion and self-compassion, could have resulted in an internal landscape ravaged by self-criticism and unrelenting pressure. The absence of a clear framework for understanding and treating mental illness further exacerbated the potential for harm. Without the tools to identify and address psychological distress, the consequences of extreme practices could have gone unchecked, leaving individuals vulnerable to chronic mental suffering. Thus, while the ancient Greek approach to pain and spiritual development offers a fascinating glimpse into a different understanding of the human condition, it also serves as a cautionary tale. Their methods, lacking the safeguards and understanding of modern psychology, highlight the inherent risks of using extreme forms of suffering as a path toward self-discovery. The potential for both healing and harm inextricably intertwined in their practices, compels us to examine our own approaches to well-being with a critical and compassionate eye. The shadows of their methods linger, a stark reminder that the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment must be tempered with wisdom, empathy, and a deep respect for the delicate balance of the human psyche. The pursuit of ascesis, that rigorous self-discipline so central to many ancient Greek spiritual practices, was not always a solitary journey. Often, it was guided, or perhaps more accurately, controlled by others. Within the secretive rites of the Orphic mysteries, for instance, the initiates were subjected to practices of self-mortification under the watchful eyes of the priesthood. The potential for manipulation, for the exploitation of vulnerability, looms large in the shadows of these ancient rituals. Imagine the power wielded by those who controlled the initiation process. They held the keys to the promised spiritual enlightenment, and their authority was absolute. The initiates, often desperate for solace or transformation, were willing to endure unimaginable pain, to submit to the will of their spiritual guides, even if that will was twisted or malevolent. This power dynamic, a recurring theme throughout history, casts a chilling light upon the ancient Greek pursuit of spiritual growth. The potential for abuse is inherent in any system where authority figures hold such influence over vulnerable individuals. The line between genuine spiritual guidance and manipulative control could easily blur, leaving the initiates trapped in a cycle of self-inflicted suffering, all in the name of achieving a higher state of being. Consider the possibility of coercion, of individuals being pressured into participating in practices that exceeded their physical or psychological limits. The promise of enlightenment, the allure of transcendence, could have been used to justify extreme measures, to silence dissent, or to maintain control. The secrecy surrounding many of these practices further complicates the picture. The lack of transparency, the absence of external oversight, created an environment ripe for abuse. Without accountability, the potential for exploitation was amplified, leaving those subjected to these practices with little recourse. The psychological warfare inherent in these systems deserves particular attention. The manipulation of fear, the cultivation of dependence, the systematic erosion of individual autonomy. These tactics, while perhaps not always intentional, were nonetheless powerful tools for maintaining control. The very act of pushing individuals to their psychological breaking points, under the guise of spiritual growth, could have served to solidify the authority of those in power. The darker side of ascesis reminds us that the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, however noble the intention, can be vulnerable to corruption. The potential for manipulation and abuse within these systems highlights the importance of safeguarding against power imbalances and ensuring ethical oversight, lessons that remain relevant even in our modern world. The echoes of these ancient practices serve as a cautionary tale, urging us to approach the pursuit of spiritual growth with awareness, vigilance, and a deep respect for the human spirit. The hushed chambers of ancient Greek temples, the secluded groves where initiates underwent their trials, these were not always spaces of pure spiritual seeking. The power dynamics inherent in ascetic practices, often overlooked in romanticized accounts, reveal a darker side to the pursuit of enlightenment. These practices, while ostensibly aimed at self-improvement, could easily be weaponized, used to control and oppress individuals and groups. Consider the role of the priesthood in the Orphic mysteries. These figures, often shrouded in secrecy and wielding immense spiritual authority, held the power to dictate the severity and nature of the initiate's trials. The very structure of the initiation process fostered a hierarchical relationship, one where vulnerability was exploited and obedience was implicitly demanded. The promise of spiritual liberation could be a potent tool for manipulation, silencing dissent and ensuring compliance. The control exerted wasn't limited to physical pain. The psychological manipulation inherent in these practices was perhaps even more insidious. The deprivation of sleep, the isolation from the outside world, the constant pressure to conform, these elements created a fertile ground for the erosion of individual autonomy. The initiates, often in a state of heightened suggestibility, were particularly vulnerable to the influence of their spiritual guides. This dynamic was not confined to religious contexts. Think of the Spartan agoge, the rigorous training regime that shaped the warrior class. While the physical hardships were undeniably intense, the underlying power structure should not be ignored. The elders, the trainers, and the military leaders held absolute authority over the young boys, molding them into obedient soldiers through a combination of physical discipline and psychological conditioning. The aim was not merely to create physically strong warriors, but also to forge individuals who would unquestioningly follow orders, even at the cost of their own well-being. Furthermore, these power dynamics could be used to reinforce existing social hierarchies. Ascetic practices, especially those involving self-denial and the acceptance of suffering, could serve as a tool to legitimize social inequalities. Those who were able to endure the harshest trials, who were able to demonstrate their resilience in the face of adversity, were often rewarded with higher status within the community. This created a system where suffering itself became a marker of social worth, reinforcing existing power structures. The very act of embracing suffering, of voluntarily submitting to pain and hardship, could be interpreted as an act of submission to authority. The willingness to endure intense physical and psychological trials could be seen as a testament to the power of the system, a demonstration of the individual's complete obedience. The shadow cast by the power dynamics within ancient Greek ascetic practices reminds us that the pursuit of self-improvement is not always a benign endeavor. The potential for manipulation, for the exploitation of vulnerability, lurks within any system where authority figures hold significant sway over the lives of others. This potent mix of spiritual aspiration and power imbalance is a chilling reminder of the human capacity for both profound self-reflection and disturbing control. The echoes of ancient screams mingle with the hushed whispers of modern therapy sessions. A stark contrast, perhaps, but a comparison nonetheless. Ancient Greece, with its brutal initiations and self-inflicted austerities, offers a chilling counterpoint to the carefully calibrated techniques of contemporary psychotherapy. While separated by millennia, both grapple with the same fundamental human experience: suffering and its potential to transform the self. The ancient Greeks, in their pursuit of eudaimonia, often equated suffering with spiritual growth. The pain of physical deprivation, the torment of self-denial, the agony of confronting one's deepest flaws, these were seen not merely as obstacles, but as necessary steps on the path to enlightenment. This approach, while potentially fostering resilience and self-awareness, lacked the safeguards and ethical considerations of modern practices. The line between self-discipline and self-destruction was often blurred, with potentially devastating consequences. Modern therapeutic approaches, while diverse, generally prioritize the individual's well-being and autonomy. Cognitive behavioral therapy (CBT), for instance, focuses on identifying and modifying maladaptive thought patterns, aiming to alleviate suffering through rational analysis and behavioral modification. Mindfulness-based stress reduction (MBSR) encourages a non-judgmental awareness of present experience, helping individuals to manage difficult emotions and cultivate inner peace. These methods, grounded in scientific research and ethical practice, offer a stark contrast to the often unregulated and potentially exploitative practices of ancient Greece. However, the stark contrast shouldn't obscure some intriguing parallels. Both ancient and modern methods, in their own ways, seek to confront the individual with their inner demons. The ancient Greek emphasis on self-mastery, on conquering the weaknesses of the flesh, finds a resonance in the modern emphasis on self-awareness and personal responsibility. Both approaches, while differing drastically in their methods, ultimately aim to empower the individual to overcome suffering and lead a more fulfilling life. Yet, a critical lens reveals the limitations of both. The ancient Greek approach, rooted in a worldview that often glorified suffering, could easily descend into self-harm and the suppression of genuine emotional needs. Modern therapies, while more ethically sound, can sometimes be overly focused on symptom reduction, neglecting the deeper existential questions that underpin human suffering. The risk of reducing complex emotional experiences to mere clinical categories remains a concern. Ultimately, the comparison between ancient Greek approaches to pain and modern therapeutic methods reveals a complex interplay between intention, method, and outcome. While ancient practices often lack the safety nets and ethical considerations of contemporary approaches, they offer a compelling, if unsettling, glimpse into the enduring human struggle to understand and manage suffering. The ancient Greeks, in their often brutal pursuit of enlightenment, remind us that the path to self-discovery is not always paved with comfort and ease. The challenge, for both ancient and modern practitioners, lies in harnessing the transformative potential of suffering while safeguarding against its destructive power. The journey, it seems, remains fraught with peril, even as the methods evolve. The shadows lengthen, and with them, the ethical questions deepen. We have journeyed through the dark landscapes of ancient Greek spirituality, witnessing the deliberate embrace of pain as a path to enlightenment. But the echoes of those practices resonate uneasily in the modern world, demanding a careful ethical appraisal. Can the deliberate infliction or acceptance of pain ever be justified as a means to spiritual growth? The answer, shrouded in ambiguity, demands a nuanced exploration. The ancient Greeks, operating within a vastly different ethical framework, saw suffering not merely as something to be avoided, but as a crucible forging character and revealing inner truths. Their world, steeped in mythology and ritual, often blurred the lines between personal sacrifice and communal obligation. The pain endured was often viewed as a necessary price to pay for spiritual advancement, a demonstration of commitment and fortitude. Yet, this perspective lacked the safeguards and ethical considerations that are central to modern ethical frameworks. Modern ethical thought, influenced by concepts like autonomy, informed consent, and the minimization of harm, compels us to view the deliberate infliction of pain with extreme caution. The potential for exploitation, coercion, and psychological damage is immense. While some forms of self-discipline and challenge may be beneficial, they must always be approached within a framework of respect for the individual's bodily integrity and mental well-being. Consider the potential benefits. The deliberate confrontation with discomfort and adversity can foster resilience, self-awareness, and a deeper understanding of one's limits. The ability to endure hardship can cultivate a sense of self-mastery and inner strength. However, these potential benefits must be weighed against the significant risks. The line between constructive challenge and harmful self-destruction can be perilously thin. The potential for psychological trauma, physical injury, and the erosion of self-respect is substantial. Furthermore, the ancient Greek context differed significantly from our own. Their worldview, shaped by a complex interplay of religious beliefs, social structures, and philosophical ideologies, legitimized forms of suffering that would be utterly unacceptable in the modern world. The power dynamics inherent in many ancient spiritual practices, with their emphasis on hierarchical authority and unquestioning obedience, raise serious ethical concerns about coercion and manipulation. The vulnerability of individuals seeking spiritual growth was often exploited, with potentially devastating consequences. The ethical framework within which we evaluate the use of pain for spiritual growth is thus profoundly different. Modern ethical considerations emphasize the importance of informed consent, the protection of vulnerable populations, and the minimization of harm. Any practice that involves the deliberate infliction or acceptance of pain must be subjected to rigorous scrutiny, ensuring that the potential benefits are clearly outweighed by the risks. The pursuit of spiritual growth should never come at the cost of an individual's well-being or dignity. The shadows of the past must illuminate, not dictate, our ethical path forward. The whispers of ancient practices must be heard, but not blindly followed. The balance between self-discovery and self-preservation remains a delicate and crucial one. The pursuit of enlightenment should not be a descent into darkness. The concept of informed consent, a cornerstone of modern ethical practice, casts a long shadow across the landscape of ancient Greek spirituality. In our present age, the idea that an individual must willingly and knowingly agree to any medical or therapeutic intervention is fundamental. But the ancient world, steeped in different social structures and power dynamics, offers a stark contrast. The pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, often involving self-inflicted pain or rigorous ascetic practices, rarely involve the kind of deliberate, informed consent we recognize today. Imagine the hushed chambers of an Orphic mystery cult, the initiates shrouded in darkness, their bodies subjected to ritualistic pain. Were these acts of self-mortification freely chosen? Or were they driven by a combination of religious fervor, social pressure, and perhaps even fear? The very nature of these secret societies, with their hierarchical structures and emphasis on obedience, suggests a significant power imbalance. The notion of an individual autonomously deciding to endure such suffering, fully aware of the potential risks and consequences, seems a distant and perhaps impossible ideal. Consider the Stoics, who found virtue in enduring hardship and embracing adversity. While their philosophy emphasized self-mastery and rational control, the application of this philosophy could lead to the acceptance of suffering that might not be viewed as freely chosen in the modern context. The pressure to conform to societal expectations and ideals, to demonstrate one's commitment to virtue, could overshadow the individual's autonomy. The line between self-discipline and self-immolation becomes blurred, leaving us to question the true nature of their choice. The stark contrast between ancient practices and modern ethical guidelines is striking. Modern therapeutic interventions, even those involving discomfort or challenge, require explicit, informed consent. Patients must be fully informed of the potential risks and benefits of any treatment, and they must have the autonomy to refuse participation. This commitment to informed consent reflects a profound shift in the understanding of the patient-practitioner relationship, emphasizing respect for individual autonomy and the minimization of harm. The ancient Greek world, with its different cultural values and power structures, lacked this framework. The pursuit of spiritual growth often involved practices that we would today consider ethically problematic, raising troubling questions about coercion, manipulation, and the exploitation of vulnerability. The absence of informed consent in these ancient practices serves as a stark reminder of the distance we have traveled in our understanding of ethical conduct and the protection of individual rights. The echoes of the past, while informative, should not dictate the ethical standards of the present. The pursuit of enlightenment, in our time, demands a far greater respect for the autonomy and well-being of the individual. The shadows of the past must not obscure the light of modern ethical principles. The echoes of ancient Greek ascesis, the rigorous practice of self-discipline, resonate even now, whispering through the corridors of modern spiritual and therapeutic practices. While the methods may have evolved, the underlying principle, the belief that confronting discomfort and hardship can lead to spiritual growth and self-discovery persists. Yet, the path has been paved with ethical considerations, a stark contrast to the often brutal realities of ancient practices. Modern mindfulness practices, for instance, share a surprising kinship with ancient ascetic traditions. The deliberate cultivation of awareness, the conscious engagement with uncomfortable emotions and sensations, bear a resemblance to the self-inflicted pain and rigorous denial of physical comfort practiced by ancient ascetics. Both aim to push the boundaries of the self, to transcend the limitations of the ego, to achieve a deeper understanding of one's inner nature. However, the modern approach emphasizes gentle self-compassion, a far cry from the often harsh and punitive practices of the past. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, a prominent form of psychotherapy, echoes the Stoic emphasis on rational self-mastery. By challenging negative thought patterns and developing coping mechanisms, CBT empowers individuals to navigate emotional distress and adversity. This mirrors the Stoic ideal of controlling one's reactions to external events, finding inner peace amidst chaos. Yet, CBT operates within a framework of informed consent and ethical guidelines, ensuring the patient's autonomy and well-being. The enduring appeal of these practices suggests a deep-seated human need to confront discomfort and hardship as a means of self-transformation. The ancient Greeks, in their exploration of ascesis, stumbled upon a fundamental truth that enduring suffering, whether physical or emotional, can be a catalyst for profound personal growth. The modern world, however, has tempered this understanding with a critical lens, emphasizing the ethical considerations and potential for harm inherent in such practices. The shadow of the past looms large. The echoes of self-flagellation and ritualistic pain, though distant, remind us of the potential for manipulation and exploitation that can arise when the pursuit of spiritual growth becomes detached from ethical considerations. It is a reminder that the path to self-discovery should not be paved with suffering imposed upon the vulnerable, but rather through a journey of self-awareness and mindful engagement. The line between self-mastery and self-destruction remains fragile, a constant challenge for both ancient and modern seekers. Modern therapeutic approaches have learned from the mistakes of the past. While acknowledging the potential of hardship to foster growth, they emphasize the importance of informed consent, respect for individual autonomy, and the protection from harm. The legacy of ascesis continues, but it has been refined, shaped by ethical considerations and a deeper understanding of the complexities of human psychology. The ancient pursuit of spiritual growth through suffering finds a new expression, a more compassionate and ethically sound approach to the transformative power of hardship. The journey remains challenging, but the path is now illuminated by the principles of safety, respect, and mindful self-compassion. The whispers of the past guide us, but the future is shaped by a more enlightened understanding. The whispers of ancient Greece, once echoing with the cries of the self-mortified and the groans of the tortured, now find themselves refracted through the lens of modern scholarship. No longer simply a historical curiosity, the ancient Greek engagement with pain and spiritual growth has become a subject of intense scrutiny, reinterpretation, and even in some circles, reluctant admiration. Some scholars, drawing on the philosophies of the Stoics and Epicureans, focus on the nuanced relationship between suffering and self-mastery. They highlight the ancient Greek emphasis on reason and virtue, suggesting that the endurance of hardship was not simply an act of masochism, but a deliberate exercise in cultivating resilience, inner strength, and a deeper understanding of the human condition. For them, the ancient texts offer a roadmap to navigating the inevitable trials of life, a guide to finding meaning and purpose even amidst adversity. This perspective often emphasizes the importance of self-awareness and conscious engagement with suffering, rather than simply seeking to avoid or suppress it. Others, however, take a more critical approach. They point to the potential for exploitation and abuse inherent in many ancient Greek practices, emphasizing the power dynamics that often accompanied rituals of self-mortification. For these scholars, the ancient Greek approach to suffering is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the dangers of unchecked power and the potential for spiritual practices to become instruments of oppression. They argue that modern interpretations must prioritize ethical considerations, safeguarding individual autonomy and minimizing harm. Within the realm of modern therapeutic practice, the ancient Greek engagement with pain continues to spark debate. Some practitioners draw parallels between ancient ascetic practices and contemporary mindfulness techniques, emphasizing the shared goal of cultivating self-awareness and managing emotional distress. Others, however, express concern over the potential for romanticizing or mimicking ancient practices that lacked the safeguards of modern ethical frameworks. This tension reflects a broader ongoing discussion about the appropriate role of discomfort and challenge in the pursuit of personal growth. The interpretations of ancient Greek views on pain and spiritual growth are as diverse as the ancient philosophies themselves. There is no single, universally accepted perspective. Rather, a multiplicity of voices engage in an ongoing dialogue, seeking to understand the complexities of the ancient past while applying those lessons to the present. The shadows of Olympus continue to cast a long reach, their influence both inspiring and cautionary. The ancient Greeks, in their exploration of the human capacity for both self-destruction and self-transcendence, offer us a complex and enduring legacy, one that continues to challenge and shape our understanding of the intricate relationship between pain, suffering, and the elusive pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The echoes of their struggles persist, reminding us of the enduring human quest for meaning in a world often marked by hardship and uncertainty. Their stories, both harrowing and insightful, serve as a cautionary testament to the delicate balance between self-mastery and self-destruction. The ancient Greeks, in their relentless pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, viewed the body not merely as a vessel, but as a temple, a sacred space housing the immortal soul. This temple, however, was often subjected to rigorous trials, its physical integrity tested to the breaking point in the name of spiritual purification. Self-flagellation, ritualistic fasting, and extreme athleticism were not viewed as acts of self-harm, but as sacred disciplines, forging the soul through the crucible of pain. The body, in this paradigm, was both a means to an end and an integral part of the spiritual journey. Its suffering, carefully orchestrated, was believed to refine the spirit, to cleanse it of impurities, and to unlock hidden potentials. This concept, though jarring to modern sensibilities, reveals a profound understanding of the mind-body connection. The ancient Greeks intuitively grasped the intricate interplay between physical and psychological states, recognizing that the body's experiences profoundly influenced the soul's trajectory. The very act of enduring physical hardship was seen as a form of mental discipline, a pathway to self-mastery, and a crucible for forging inner resilience. Modern perspectives on the mind-body connection, while informed by scientific advancements, share some surprising common ground with the ancient Greek view. The burgeoning field of psychosomatic medicine underscores the intimate relationship between mental and physical well-being. Chronic stress, for instance, can manifest as physical ailments, while physical discomfort can exacerbate psychological distress. This reciprocal influence highlights the interconnectedness of the mind and body, a concept implicitly understood by the ancient Greeks. Modern practices like mindfulness and meditation, though often lacking the extreme physicality of ancient Greek asceticism, similarly emphasize the importance of cultivating a harmonious relationship between the mind and body. The goal, much like in ancient Greece, is to achieve a state of balance and well-being, but the methods are tempered by ethical considerations and a focus on self-compassion. However, the stark contrast between ancient and modern approaches lies primarily in the ethical framework. The ancient Greeks, lacking the modern understanding of informed consent and the potential for harm, often employed practices that would be considered unethical and even abusive today. The power dynamics inherent in many ancient spiritual practices raise serious concerns about coercion and exploitation. Modern therapeutic practices, while utilizing elements of self-discipline and mindful engagement with discomfort, prioritize safety, autonomy, and the well-being of the individual. The modern practitioner guides the patient toward self-discovery and growth, but without the potentially self-destructive elements that characterized some ancient practices. The ancient Greek concept of the body as a temple, while compelling in its holistic understanding of the mind-body connection, serves as a stark reminder of the evolving nature of ethical considerations. The exploration of the relationship between the physical and the spiritual remains a central theme in both ancient and modern thought. But the path towards spiritual enlightenment has been significantly altered by a greater understanding of human rights, individual autonomy, and the potential for harm within both physical and spiritual practices. The lessons of the past, therefore, must be viewed through the prism of the present, ensuring that the pursuit of spiritual growth does not come at the expense of individual well-being. The whispers of Olympus carried tales not only of heroic triumphs, but also of the perilous edges of human endurance. While the ancient Greeks celebrated self-mastery as a path to enlightenment, their philosophy also acknowledged the inherent limitations of the human spirit, the precarious balance between strength and self-destruction. The pursuit of eudaimonia, that flourishing life achieved through virtue and reason, was not a reckless sprint towards an unattainable peak, but a careful ascent, mindful of the treacherous terrain. The ascetic practices, often involving extreme physical and mental hardship, were not without their inherent dangers. The line between discipline and self-harm could blur, leaving individuals vulnerable to physical and psychological damage. The relentless pursuit of spiritual purification through pain could, paradoxically, lead to a fractured self, a shattered vessel incapable of holding the very enlightenment it sought. The ancient world witnessed firsthand the potential for self-inflicted suffering to spiral into madness, a testament to the fragility of the human spirit when pushed beyond its limits. The stories of those who pushed too far, who cross the threshold into self-destructive obsession serve as cautionary tales. These are not merely tales of physical breakdown, but of the subtle erosion of reason and the insidious creep of despair. The relentless pursuit of self-improvement, when divorced from wisdom and compassion, can become a self-consuming fire, incinerating the very essence of the self it sought to refine. Even the most disciplined practitioners of ascesis, the rigorous training of the body and soul, understood the importance of balance and moderation. The Stoics, for instance, while embracing hardship as a means of cultivating resilience, also emphasized the importance of wisdom and self-awareness. They recognized the potential for excess, the danger of allowing the pursuit of virtue to become a form of self-flagellation. The path to eudaimonia was not a contest of endurance, but a journey of mindful self-cultivation. The ancient Greeks, despite their fascination with pushing the boundaries of human capability, recognized the importance of setting limits. Their understanding of human frailty, of the delicate balance between strength and vulnerability, serves as a crucial reminder in our own time. The pursuit of self-improvement, whether through physical or mental discipline, must always be tempered by wisdom, compassion, and a deep respect for the limits of the human body and mind. The path to enlightenment is not a race to the bottom, but a journey of mindful self-discovery, guided by reason and tempered by self-compassion. To push oneself to the brink is not necessarily an act of strength, but a potential descent into darkness. The ancient wisdom whispers a warning: know your limits, lest you be consumed by the very forces you seek to master. For in the shadows of Olympus, even the gods themselves acknowledged the inescapable boundaries of human mortality and the potential for self-destruction. The pursuit of spiritual enlightenment in ancient Greece was not a solitary endeavor, confined to the silent chambers of individual contemplation. Instead, it was often woven into the fabric of community life, shaped by social structures, and supported by shared rituals and practices. Ascetic disciplines, while demanding individual fortitude, frequently unfolded within a communal context, offering a complex interplay of individual striving and collective support. Consider the mystery cults, shrouded in secrecy and ritualistic practices often involving self-mortification. Initiates did not embark on their arduous journeys alone. They were guided by experienced members, supported by a network of fellow initiates, bound together by shared beliefs and the collective pursuit of spiritual liberation. This communal framework provided a crucial scaffolding for individuals navigating the intense physical and psychological challenges of ascetic practices. The shared experience of hardship forged powerful bonds, creating a sense of solidarity and mutual understanding. The collective nature of these practices offered a form of social control, ensuring adherence to established norms and providing a system of accountability. This was not simply a matter of group pressure. It was a system of mutual support where individuals could draw strength from the collective, finding solace and encouragement in their shared struggles. However, the communal aspect of ancient Greek ascetic practices also presents a darker side. The power dynamics within these groups could be exploitative, with leaders wielding significant influence over initiates. The potential for manipulation and abuse was inherent in the hierarchical structures of many mystery cults, where the authority of the leaders was often unquestioned. The vulnerability of initiates, physically and psychologically weakened by their ascetic practices, made them susceptible to manipulation and control. The line between genuine spiritual guidance and coercive control could become dangerously blurred. The promise of enlightenment, the allure of transcendence, could be used to justify the infliction of pain and suffering. The community, intended to provide support, could become a tool of oppression, perpetuating a cycle of dependence and manipulation. Furthermore, the communal aspect of these practices raises questions about the role of social pressure in the pursuit of spiritual growth. Was the intense self-discipline driven solely by individual aspiration, or was it also shaped by the expectations and demands of the community? The pressure to conform, to endure hardship in the name of collective ideals, could have overshadowed individual needs and desires. The role of community in ancient Greek ascetic practices thus reveals a multifaceted picture, a complex interplay of support, control, and manipulation. While the collective framework offered crucial support and a sense of shared purpose, it also carried the potential for exploitation and abuse. Understanding this duality is essential to fully grasping the complexities of ancient Greek approaches to spiritual enlightenment and the ethical considerations they raise in the modern world. The echoes of these ancient practices resonate even today, reminding us of the delicate balance between individual autonomy and collective influence in the pursuit of self-discovery and spiritual growth. The hushed whispers of the ancient world offer glimpses into a landscape of suffering, where the lines between physical and mental anguish blurred, intertwining with their understanding of the human spirit. The ancient Greeks, masters of philosophy and art, grappled with the enigma of mental illness, their interpretations often colored by the prevailing societal norms and spiritual beliefs. Unlike the compartmentalized understanding of mental health in modern medicine, the ancient Greeks saw the mind and body as inextricably linked. Illness, whether physical or mental, was often attributed to an imbalance within the individual, a disruption of the harmonious flow of humors, or a divine punishment. This holistic perspective, while lacking the scientific precision of modern psychiatry, offered a profound insight into the interconnectedness of the physical and psychological realms. Mental suffering was not viewed as a purely medical condition, but as a reflection of deeper spiritual or moral imbalances. Conditions we might now classify as depression or anxiety were often interpreted as a consequence of personal failings, divine wrath, or demonic possession. The sufferer, therefore, was not simply a patient, but a person wrestling with inner demons, grappling with the weight of their own shortcomings, or the wrath of the gods. Treatment methods reflected this perspective, often focusing on restoring balance and harmony. Temple healing, a prevalent practice, combined religious rituals, herbal remedies, and therapeutic conversations aimed at addressing the underlying spiritual or emotional distress. The role of the healer was not merely to cure the illness, but to guide the individual towards spiritual and emotional restoration. However, the darkness of the ancient world cast long shadows on their approaches to mental illness. The lack of scientific understanding often led to misinterpretations and harsh treatments. Exorcisms, aimed at expelling malevolent spirits, could be physically and emotionally brutal, inflicting unnecessary suffering on already vulnerable individuals. The stigma surrounding mental illness further compounded the problem, isolating sufferers and depriving them of the support they desperately needed. The concept of suffering, central to their spiritual philosophies, intersected deeply with their understanding of mental health. While some philosophies, like Stoicism, advocated for enduring hardship as a path to self-mastery, others viewed suffering as a sign of divine displeasure or personal weakness. This duality created a complex landscape where mental anguish could be perceived as both a spiritual challenge and a source of shame. This exploration of ancient Greek views on mental illness reveals a nuanced perspective, a tapestry woven from both insightful observations and deeply flawed interpretations. Their holistic approach, emphasizing the mind-body connection, foreshadows modern integrative therapies. However, their methods, often lacking in scientific rigor and compassion, highlight the dangers of misinterpreting suffering and the crucial need for ethical considerations in approaching mental health challenges. The echoes of their struggles resonate even today, reminding us of the enduring human quest for understanding and healing the wounds of the mind. The darkness of the past illuminates the path towards a more compassionate and scientifically informed future. The Olympian heights, shrouded in mist and mystery, held sway over the lives of the ancient Greeks. Their pantheon, a tapestry of capricious gods and vengeful goddesses, exerted a profound influence on their understanding of suffering, inextricably linking human agency with divine intervention. Pain, in their worldview, was not merely a physical sensation, but a conduit for divine communication, a reflection of the gods' favor or displeasure. The capricious nature of the Olympian gods meant suffering could strike without warning, a thunderbolt from Zeus, a plague sent by Apollo, or a curse whispered by vengeful Erinyes. This unpredictability instilled a deep sense of vulnerability, reminding mortals of their insignificance in the grand cosmic scheme. Such suffering, however, was not always seen as purely punitive. It could also be interpreted as a trial, a test of character designed to refine the human spirit and reveal inner strength. The heroes of Greek myth, figures like Heracles and Odysseus, endured unimaginable pain and hardship on their journeys, emerging stronger and wiser. Their ordeals, though often divinely orchestrated, served as potent symbols of the transformative power of suffering. These narratives reinforced the idea that enduring hardship, even if inflicted by the gods, could lead to spiritual growth, a purification of the soul, and ultimately, a closer connection to the divine. However, the Greek understanding of suffering was not purely passive. While the gods could inflict pain, humans also possessed the capacity to influence their fate through piety, prayer, and sacrifices. Appeasing the gods through ritual and devotion could potentially avert suffering or mitigate its intensity. This agency, albeit limited, provided a sense of control amidst the chaos of divine intervention. This interplay between divine intervention and human agency is further exemplified in the concept of kleos, or glory. Heroes who endured immense suffering, often inflicted by the gods themselves, were rewarded with lasting fame and immortality. Their suffering, in this context, became a necessary sacrifice, a price paid for achieving lasting renown and securing a place in the annals of history. The ancient Greek approach to suffering, therefore, was a complex blend of fatalism and agency. The gods held ultimate power, capable of inflicting pain and shaping human destiny. Yet, humans could, through piety and virtue, influence their fate, transforming suffering into an opportunity for spiritual growth and achieving lasting glory. This perspective, deeply embedded in their religious and cultural beliefs, shaped their understanding of pain and its role in the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, offering a compelling, yet ethically complex narrative that continues to resonate even today. The shadows cast by Olympus linger, even now, a reminder of the enduring struggle between the divine and the human, between suffering and spiritual growth. The echoing chants, the rhythmic drumming, the scent of incense thick in the air, these were the sensory landscapes of ancient Greek ritual, where myth and suffering intertwined in a complex dance. Myths, woven into the fabric of their society, served not just as entertaining narratives, but as potent vehicles for understanding the human condition, particularly the inescapable reality of pain. The stories of heroes enduring unimaginable trials, gods inflicting agonizing punishments, and mortals grappling with loss and despair, provided a framework for interpreting suffering and its potential for transformation. Consider the myth of Persephone's descent into the underworld, a tale of abduction and forced confinement, yet also a journey of initiation and rebirth. Persephone's suffering, while traumatic, ultimately granted her dominion over the cycles of life and death, a power inextricably linked to her ordeal. This narrative reinforced the idea that pain, even inflicted pain, could lead to profound spiritual growth and the acquisition of extraordinary power. The rituals themselves served as powerful enactments of these mythical narratives. The mysteries of Eleusis, shrouded in secrecy and veiled in symbolic language, involved initiates undergoing a symbolic death and rebirth, often involving periods of fasting, deprivation, and intense emotional turmoil. These practices weren't merely theatrical performances. They were visceral experiences designed to induce psychological and emotional upheaval, potentially mirroring the suffering depicted in myths. The Dionysian rituals, characterized by ecstatic frenzy and sometimes self-inflicted wounds, provide another compelling example. The tearing of flesh, the wild abandon, the blurring of boundaries between self and other. These were not acts of mere barbarity, but a deliberate transgression of societal norms, aimed at transcending the limitations of the everyday and accessing a state of heightened consciousness. The pain endured was a sacrifice, a deliberate offering to achieve a state of divine union. However, it's crucial to acknowledge the potential for manipulation and exploitation within these rituals. The power dynamics inherent in the relationship between priest and initiate, the secrecy surrounding the mysteries, and the potential for coercion, these elements raise serious ethical questions about the extent to which suffering was truly a chosen path towards enlightenment or a means of social control. The Orphic mysteries further complicate this picture. Their emphasis on purification through ritualized pain and suffering suggests a belief system where the body was viewed as a prison for the soul, and physical pain a means of liberation. This perspective, while offering a path to spiritual liberation, also carries the danger of self-harm and the potential for psychological damage if not carefully controlled. Ultimately, the ancient Greeks' use of myth and ritual in relation to suffering presents a multifaceted picture. While these cultural elements reinforce the idea that pain could be a catalyst for spiritual growth and the acquisition of power, they also highlight the potential for manipulation and the inherent risks associated with the deliberate pursuit of suffering. The legacy of these practices, therefore, remains complex and requires a critical evaluation, reminding us of the delicate balance between the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment and the preservation of human well-being. Gaze upon the sculpted marble, the bronze cast, the painted clay. Ancient Greek art, far from shying away from the harsh realities of existence, embraced the spectrum of human experience, including the visceral and often agonizing aspects of suffering. These weren't mere depictions of pain. They were explorations of the human condition, reflections on the interplay between physical and spiritual torment, and commentaries on the very nature of mortality. Consider the Laocoon group, a masterpiece of Hellenistic sculpture. The agonizing contortions of Laocoon and his sons, ensnared by monstrous serpents, are rendered with chilling realism. The taut muscles, the bulging veins, the expressions of utter despair. These details aren't simply meant to shock. They are intended to evoke a profound empathy, a visceral understanding of the limits of human endurance. The suffering depicted isn't gratuitous. It is a powerful testament to the vulnerability of humanity in the face of overwhelming forces. The tragedies of Aeschylus, Sophocles, and Euripides, often brought to life on stage with elaborate costumes and theatrical effects, similarly explored the depths of human suffering. The agonies of Oedipus, the relentless pursuit of justice in Antigone, the devastating consequences of hubris in Prometheus Bound, these narratives, conveyed through the art of performance, served as potent reminders of the precarious nature of human existence and the inevitable encounter with pain and loss. Even in depictions of gods and heroes, suffering played a significant role. The wounded Achilles, his divine strength no match for the mortal wound, reveals the vulnerability even of the seemingly invincible. The tormented figures of the Furies, their faces contorted in expressions of rage and retribution, underscore the enduring power of vengeance and the inescapable consequences of transgression. Furthermore, ancient Greek art often blurred the lines between physical and psychological pain. The expressions of anguish, the strained postures, the subtle shifts in weight and balance, these details suggest an awareness of the deep connection between body and mind, a recognition that physical suffering often reflects a deeper emotional or spiritual turmoil. The seemingly stoic figures of athletes, depicted in moments of intense physical exertion, offer a different perspective. The strained muscles, the beads of sweat, the exhaustion etched on their faces. These portrayals suggest that even the pursuit of excellence and physical prowess involved overcoming immense pain and hardship. Such depictions subtly reinforce the idea that pushing physical limits could also lead to spiritual and mental growth. However, it is crucial to recognize that these artistic representations were not always objective or neutral. The portrayal of suffering could be used to reinforce societal norms, to instill fear, or to justify acts of violence and oppression. The depiction of the conquered, the enslaved, the punished. These images reflect a complex relationship with suffering, one that intertwines the aesthetic with the political and the social. In conclusion, the art of ancient Greece offers a complex and multifaceted view of suffering. These artistic representations, while often beautiful and powerful, serve as a constant reminder of the human capacity for both endurance and vulnerability, suggesting that confronting pain, in all its forms, was an integral part of their understanding of life and the pursuit of meaning. The enduring power of these images lies in their ability to evoke, even millennia later, a profound emotional response, a visceral understanding of the human experience in all its complexities. Delve into the shadowed corners of the ancient Greek psyche, where the written word became a conduit for exploring the profound mysteries of pain and its paradoxical relationship with spiritual growth. The poets, playwrights, and philosophers of this era did not shy away from depicting suffering. Rather, they embraced it as a crucible in which the human spirit could be refined, tested, and ultimately transformed. Homer's epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, are replete with scenes of brutal violence and agonizing loss. The relentless battles, the crippling wounds, the agonizing deaths, these are not merely recounted, they are meticulously described, leaving the reader to grapple with the raw brutality of existence and the profound impact of suffering on the human psyche. The heroes, though superhuman in their strength and prowess, are nonetheless vulnerable, their bodies and spirits susceptible to the ravages of war and the weight of fate. Their suffering, far from diminishing their stature, often elevates them, revealing their resilience, their capacity for enduring hardship, and their ultimate connection to a larger, often merciless, cosmic order. The tragedies of Sophocles and Euripides offer a more introspective examination of suffering. In Oedipus Rex, The protagonist's journey is one of self-discovery forged in the fires of suffering. His relentless pursuit of truth leads to the horrifying revelation of his own culpability, plunging him into a vortex of despair and self-loathing. Yet, through this agonizing process, Oedipus achieves a profound understanding of his own fallibility, his limitations as a human being, and his ultimate dependence on the whims of fate. His suffering becomes a catalyst for self-awareness, a path towards a form of tragic enlightenment. Aeschylus's Prometheus Bound paints a picture of suffering on a cosmic scale. Prometheus, chained to a rock and subjected to relentless torment by Zeus, endures unimaginable pain for his defiance of the gods. His unwavering steadfastness, his refusal to yield to the overwhelming power of his tormentors, elevates him to the status of a martyr, a figure whose suffering becomes a testament to the enduring power of human resilience and the indomitable spirit of resistance. His torment becomes a potent symbol of the human struggle against tyranny and oppression. Even in the philosophical writings of Plato and Aristotle, suffering plays a crucial role. Plato's concept of the soul's journey toward enlightenment implies a necessary passage through the trials and tribulations of earthly existence. Aristotle, while emphasizing the importance of virtue and moderation, also acknowledges the role of hardship in shaping character and fostering resilience. The pursuit of eudaimonia, the flourishing life, was not envisioned as a path of effortless ease, but rather a journey fraught with challenges, setbacks, and unavoidable encounters with suffering. The ancient Greek literary canon, therefore, reveals a complex and multifaceted perspective on pain. Suffering is not simply viewed as something to be avoided or overcome. Rather, it is presented as an integral component of the human experience, a crucible in which character is forged and spiritual growth is attained. These literary works offer a glimpse into a world where the exploration of suffering was not a sign of weakness, but a testament to the profound depths of the human spirit's capacity for endurance, resilience, and ultimately, transformation. The echoes of their insights continue to resonate, reminding us of the enduring power of the human spirit to navigate the darkest corners of existence and emerge, perhaps, transformed. The pursuit of spiritual enlightenment through ascetic practices in ancient Greece wasn't a solitary endeavor. It had profound implications for the social fabric of the polis. These practices, often involving self-denial, rigorous discipline, and even self-inflicted pain, weren't merely personal journeys. They were woven into the social tapestry, influencing power dynamics and shaping societal structures in subtle yet significant ways. Consider the role of the ascetic individual within the community. Their rigorous self-discipline, often manifested in extreme acts of self-denial, could be interpreted as a form of social commentary, a challenge to the prevailing norms and values of the polis. By rejecting material comforts and embracing hardship, the ascetic implicitly criticized the pursuit of wealth and pleasure as the ultimate goals of life. This often led to a complex relationship with the community, sometimes revered as holy men or women, at other times viewed with suspicion and even fear. The very act of undertaking severe ascetic practices could also serve as a demonstration of power and control, both over oneself and, potentially, over others. The ability to withstand immense physical and mental pain was seen as a sign of exceptional strength and willpower, traits highly valued in a society that revered military prowess and political dominance. This could translate into social influence and even political power, with individuals using their ascetic achievements to bolster their authority and legitimacy. Furthermore, the social organization surrounding ascetic practices often created distinct hierarchies and power structures. Ascetic communities, such as those associated with certain mystery cults, often developed internal hierarchies, with leaders and teachers wielding considerable influence over their followers. These leaders could exploit the vulnerability of their disciples, using their position of authority to manipulate and control their adherents, reinforcing the darker side of the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment. The social implications of these practices extended beyond the immediate ascetic community. The public displays of self-mortification and ritualistic suffering could be used to manipulate public opinion and reinforce existing power structures. Rulers and elites might use these displays to cultivate an image of piety and devotion, enhancing their legitimacy and authority. Conversely, dissenting voices might use ascetic practices as a form of protest or resistance, challenging the established order through a demonstration of unwavering commitment to their beliefs. The relationship between ascetic practices and social structures in ancient Greece was thus complex and multifaceted. While these practices could inspire social change and challenge established norms, they also risked manipulation and exploitation. The pursuit of spiritual enlightenment through self-denial, therefore, was not simply a private affair. It was intrinsically intertwined with the social and political dynamics of the time, shaping and being shaped by the power structures of the ancient Greek world. The enduring legacy of these practices lies not only in their impact on individual spiritual journeys, but also in their profound and often unsettling influence on the social landscape. The shadows of these ancient practices continue to cast a long shadow on our understanding of the relationship between suffering, power, and the quest for spiritual transcendence. The tapestry of ancient Greek thought, woven with threads of philosophy, mythology, and ritual, reveals a paradoxical relationship with pain and suffering. A dissonance echoes through the ages, a haunting counterpoint between the glorification of endurance and the condemnation of cruelty. We have traversed the landscapes of Stoicism, where pain is a challenge to be met with unwavering resolve, and the ecstatic abandon of Dionysian revelry, where suffering becomes a conduit to divine connection. Yet, these seemingly disparate paths converge in a shared belief: the transformative power of adversity. The pursuit of eudaimonia, that elusive state of human flourishing, was inextricably linked to the acceptance, even the embrace, of suffering. This wasn't a masochistic reveling in pain, but a complex understanding of its potential to refine the soul, to forge strength of character, and to unveil hidden depths of the human spirit. The agonies of physical torment, whether self-imposed or inflicted by others, were viewed through a lens that blurred the lines between personal growth and social control. The stark reality of torture, however, casts a long shadow over this idealized vision. The methods employed, often brutal and inhumane, expose the chasm between philosophical ideals and the harsh realities of power. The manipulation of individuals, the exploitation of vulnerability, and the systematic infliction of pain, these cannot be easily reconciled with the noble pursuit of self-discovery. The dissonance rings out, a discordant note in the symphony of ancient Greek thought. We have witnessed the art and literature of the time, which confronted the stark realities of human suffering, not to sensationalize it, but to explore its profound impact on the human psyche. The sculpted figures, contorted in agony, the tragic narratives of heroes and gods, these are not mere representations of pain, but reflections on the human condition, on the capacity for both immense suffering and remarkable resilience. Yet, the very act of creating such art, of depicting suffering with such raw intensity, raises questions about the artist's intent, the audience's reception, and the potential for the glorification of pain. The line between empathetic understanding and the desensitization to suffering remains blurred, a testament to the enduring complexities of the human response to adversity. The social implications of ascetic practices further complicate the picture. The pursuit of spiritual enlightenment through self-denial, though often framed as a personal journey, became interwoven with social structures and power dynamics. The ascetic, capable of enduring immense hardship, could wield considerable influence, and this power, at times, was wielded with manipulation and control. In synthesizing these diverse perspectives, we are left with a profound paradox. The ancient Greeks recognized the potential for suffering to be a catalyst for growth, a crucible in which the human spirit could be refined and strengthened. Yet, their methods, often lacking ethical safeguards, highlight the inherent dangers of manipulating pain for the sake of spiritual advancement. The enduring legacy of this period is not a simple endorsement of suffering as a path to enlightenment, but a complex and often unsettling exploration of its multifaceted nature, a testament to the enduring struggle between the human desire for transcendence and the darker aspects of human nature. The echoes of this paradox continue to resonate in our contemporary understanding of pain, suffering, and the relentless pursuit of meaning. The shadows of Olympus lengthen, and the echoes of ancient screams still whisper on the wind. We have explored the complex and often contradictory relationship between suffering and spiritual enlightenment in ancient Greece, a world where the pursuit of eudaimonia was intertwined with the acceptance, even the embrace, of pain. But the lens of modern ethics demands a critical reevaluation, a sober assessment of the methods employed and the consequences endured. The stark reality is this: many practices employed by the ancient Greeks, while potentially yielding personal growth for some, were fundamentally unethical by contemporary standards. The lack of informed consent, the potential for coercion, the systematic infliction of suffering, these cannot be excused simply by invoking the philosophical justifications of the time. The pursuit of self-knowledge cannot be permitted to justify the violation of fundamental human rights. The shadows of the past must be acknowledged, not romanticized. The idealized visions of self-mastery through suffering must be tempered by the grim reality of pain inflicted, power wielded, and vulnerabilities exploited. We must confront the uncomfortable truth that the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment, in some ancient Greek contexts, was inextricably linked to the subjugation and suffering of others. Yet, amidst the darkness, glimmers of insight remain. The ancient Greeks grappled with profound questions concerning the human condition, the nature of suffering, and the potential for personal transformation. Their struggles, though flawed, offer valuable lessons for us today. The recognition of the transformative power of adversity, the importance of self-discipline, and the relentless pursuit of self-knowledge are all enduring themes that continue to resonate. However, the path to these insights must be paved with ethical considerations, with a deep respect for human dignity and autonomy. The modern pursuit of well-being cannot and must not mirror the brutal practices of the past. While contemporary therapeutic approaches, such as CBT and mindfulness, share some common ground with ancient Greek philosophies in their emphasis on self-awareness and overcoming challenges, the ethical framework is fundamentally different. Modern therapeutic practices prioritize informed consent, patient safety, and the avoidance of harm. They strive to empower individuals, to help them navigate their challenges with compassion and support, rather than through coercion or the infliction of pain. The lessons learned from the successes and failures of ancient Greece are invaluable, but they must be applied within a framework that prioritizes human dignity and ethical responsibility. The legacy of ancient Greece is not a simple endorsement of suffering as a path to enlightenment, but a complex and multifaceted tapestry woven with threads of both brilliance and brutality. It is a cautionary tale, a reminder of the potential for human ingenuity to be used for both constructive and destructive purposes. By studying the past, we can learn to navigate the present with greater wisdom, ensuring that the pursuit of self-improvement and spiritual growth never comes at the cost of human dignity and fundamental rights. The echoes of ancient screams fade, but the lessons they impart remain. Let us learn from the shadows of the past and build a future where the pursuit of enlightenment is guided not by the infliction of pain, but by the unwavering commitment to compassion, empathy, and ethical responsibility. The journey towards eudaimonia must be one of empowerment, not exploitation. The path to self-knowledge should be paved with respect, not suffering. The whispers of antiquity linger, even as millennia have passed. While the methods may be abhorrent to modern sensibilities, the fundamental questions posed by the ancient Greeks regarding the human condition, pain, suffering, and the elusive pursuit of enlightenment remain profoundly relevant. Their struggles, their triumphs, and their failures offer a chillingly insightful mirror to our own contemporary anxieties. The ancient Greeks, in their relentless pursuit of eudaimonia, a flourishing that transcended mere physical well-being, grappled with the nature of suffering in ways that resonate deeply even today. Their explorations, though often shrouded in darkness and tinged with brutality, laid bare the human capacity for both profound resilience and devastating self-destruction. The enduring power of their insights lies not in the endorsement of their methods, but in the unflinching honesty with which they confronted the complexities of the human spirit. Consider the Stoics, for instance, who found a path to inner peace through the acceptance of hardship. Their philosophy, though seemingly austere, speaks to a timeless human need to find meaning and purpose in the face of adversity. Their emphasis on self-control, on the cultivation of virtue, and on the acceptance of what lies beyond our control, provides a framework for navigating the inevitable trials of life. Even the Dionysian embrace of ecstatic pain, while seemingly extreme, reveals a deep-seated human desire to transcend the limitations of the ordinary, to experience a reality that lies beyond the confines of everyday existence. This pursuit of transcendence, though often expressed through practices that are ethically problematic, speaks to a fundamental yearning for something more, a desire to connect with something larger than ourselves. The ascetic practices of ancient Greece, while often fraught with ethical complications, highlight the transformative power of self-discipline and rigorous self-examination. The willingness to endure hardship, to push the boundaries of physical and mental endurance, reflects a profound commitment to self-improvement and the relentless pursuit of personal growth. These practices, though requiring a critical reevaluation in light of modern ethical standards, nonetheless offer a powerful testament to the human capacity for resilience and self-transformation. The ancient Greeks, in their exploration of suffering, did not shy away from the darkness. They confronted the brutal realities of pain and loss, acknowledging their power to both destroy and transform. Their insights, though filtered through the lens of a different time and culture, continue to illuminate the human condition, offering a timeless perspective on the enduring struggle between suffering and enlightenment. The echoes of their struggles resonate in our own contemporary anxieties, in our own relentless pursuit of meaning and purpose. By engaging with their insights, Even amidst the shadows of their methods, we can gain a deeper understanding of ourselves, of our capacity for both great good and great evil, and of the enduring power of the human spirit to endure, to adapt, and to ultimately strive for a more fulfilling existence. The journey towards eudaimonia is a journey of self-discovery, one that requires both courage and wisdom, and the ancient Greeks, despite their flaws, provide a compelling roadmap for navigating this complex and often treacherous terrain. The ancient Greeks did not perceive pain as merely a physical sensation. It was a potent catalyst for spiritual transformation, a crucible in which the soul could be refined and purified. Their understanding of the spiritual dimensions of pain transcended the purely physical, delving into the realms of self-knowledge, moral fortitude, and the ultimate pursuit of eudaimonia. For many, the path to enlightenment was paved with suffering. The endurance of physical pain was viewed not as an end in itself, but as a means to an end, a process of stripping away the superficial layers of self, revealing the raw, unvarnished essence of the human spirit. Through the crucible of pain, the individual was forced to confront their limitations, their weaknesses, and their deepest fears. This confrontation, though agonizing, was considered essential for true spiritual growth. The Stoics, in their unwavering acceptance of hardship, found a path to inner peace through the cultivation of virtue. They viewed pain not as an enemy to be conquered, but as an unavoidable aspect of the human condition. By accepting pain with equanimity, by refusing to allow it to dominate their minds and spirits, they transcended its limitations, finding a profound sense of inner strength and resilience. Their suffering, far from being a source of despair, became a catalyst for spiritual growth, a testament to their unwavering moral compass. The Orphic mysteries, shrouded in secrecy and steeped in symbolism, offer another perspective on the spiritual significance of pain. Their rituals, often involving ecstatic experiences and intense physical ordeals, aimed to unlock the soul's potential, to liberate it from the cycle of reincarnation, and unite it with the divine. Pain, in this context, became a gateway to altered states of consciousness, a means of accessing hidden realms of spiritual experience. Ascetic practices, too, emphasize the transformative power of self-denial and physical hardship. By denying themselves physical pleasures, by subjecting themselves to rigorous disciplines, individuals sought to strengthen their willpower, to refine their senses, and to cultivate a deeper connection with the spiritual realm. The pain endured during these practices was viewed as a sacrifice, a purification, a means of forging a stronger, more virtuous self. The body became a vessel for spiritual transformation, a tool to be honed and refined through the relentless pursuit of self-mastery. The ancient Greek understanding of pain's spiritual dimensions is both fascinating and disturbing. While their methods often lacked the ethical safeguards we hold dear today, their insights into the transformative power of suffering offer a complex and compelling perspective on the human condition. Their explorations, though fraught with ethical ambiguities, remain a testament to the human capacity for resilience, self-discovery, and the relentless pursuit of something beyond the purely physical realm, a pursuit of enlightenment born from the ashes of pain. The enduring mystery is not merely how they viewed pain, but how their views echo in our own subconscious, still questioning the boundaries between suffering and spiritual awakening. The ancient Greek world, celebrated for its emphasis on reason and logic, grappled with a paradox: the irrationality of pain. While philosophy championed rational thought and self-control, the experience of pain often defied these principles, plunging individuals into a realm beyond the reach of reason. This inherent conflict between the rational ideal and the visceral reality of suffering presents a fascinating and unsettling aspect of their worldview. Consider the battlefield, where the clash of steel and the cries of the wounded shattered the veneer of civilized discourse. The agony of a broken limb, the searing burn of a wound, the chilling terror of impending death, these were experiences that transcended the realm of intellectual contemplation. Reason, in the face of such overwhelming physical and emotional trauma, often proved impotent. The screams of the dying, the desperate pleas for mercy, these were not the pronouncements of rational minds, but rather the desperate outpourings of bodies and souls overwhelmed by pain. Even in the controlled environments of religious rituals or ascetic practices, the irrationality of pain asserted itself. The ecstatic experiences of the Orphic mysteries, the self-inflicted mortifications of the ascetics, these were not expressions of rational self-improvement, but rather journeys into the liminal spaces between sanity and madness. The deliberate infliction of pain, the willing embrace of suffering, these acts defied the principles of reason and self-preservation, suggesting a deeper, more primal force at work. The pursuit of eudaimonia, that elusive state of flourishing, often involved confronting the irrationality of pain head-on. The Stoics, though masters of reason, acknowledged the limitations of logic in the face of suffering. They advocated for accepting pain with equanimity, not because it was rational, but because resistance only amplified its power. Their philosophy, while grounded in reason, acknowledged the existence of a realm beyond the reach of logic, a realm where pain held sway. This tension between reason and the irrationality of pain is reflected in the very language used to describe suffering. The vivid imagery employed by poets and playwrights, the harrowing descriptions of physical and emotional torment, these reveal a profound understanding of pain's ability to overwhelm and distort the rational mind. The language itself became a means of grappling with the irrational, of attempting to capture and articulate an experience that defied logical explanation. The ancient Greek exploration of pain, therefore, is not simply a study of physical sensation, but a deeper inquiry into the limits of reason, the boundaries between the rational and the irrational, the conscious and the unconscious. Their engagement with suffering, however ethically problematic it may appear to us today, reveals a profound understanding of the human condition, a recognition that even the most rational mind can be overwhelmed by the irrational forces of pain. The legacy of this exploration lies in its stark reminder that the human experience transcends the purely rational, that there are realms of existence beyond the reach of logic, and that sometimes the most profound truths are found not in reasoned discourse, but in the depths of suffering itself. The air hangs heavy with the scent of incense and the metallic tang of blood. A flickering torchlight casts long, dancing shadows across the temple floor, illuminating the scene with an unsettling clarity. This is not a celebration of life, but a ritual of sacrifice, a stark and brutal offering to the capricious gods of the ancient Greek pantheon. For within the heart of their spirituality lay a profound and often disturbing connection between pain, sacrifice, and spiritual growth. The concept of sacrifice extended far beyond the ritual slaughter of animals. It permeated every aspect of ancient Greek religious life, weaving itself into the fabric of their understanding of the divine. The gods, in their power and unpredictability, demanded appeasement, and this appeasement often came in the form of suffering. This was not merely a matter of propitiating angry deities. It was a deeply ingrained belief that suffering held a transformative power, a capacity to forge a connection with the divine through shared experience. Consider the myths, replete with tales of heroes enduring unimaginable hardship. Heracles, burdened by the 12 labors, endured physical and emotional torment, forging himself into a demigod through the crucible of pain. These stories weren't merely entertaining narratives. They served as potent reminders of the price of greatness, the necessity of sacrifice for achieving spiritual elevation. The hero's journey, invariably marked by suffering, resonated deeply within the ancient Greek psyche, reinforcing the idea that spiritual growth was inextricably linked to the acceptance and even the embrace of pain. The rituals themselves were often profoundly unsettling, imbued with a sense of both awe and dread. The cries of the sacrificial animals, the sight of blood flowing freely, these were not merely incidental details, but integral components of the ritual, intended to evoke a visceral response, to bridge the gap between the human and the divine through a shared experience of suffering. This wasn't a detached act of worship, it was a deeply immersive experience, designed to push the boundaries of human endurance and to foster a profound sense of connection with the supernatural realm. The connection between sacrifice and spiritual growth wasn't limited to grand public rituals. It extended into the personal lives of individuals, manifesting in acts of self-denial, asceticism, and even self-mutilation. These practices, though extreme by modern standards, were seen as pathways to spiritual purity and enlightenment. The pain endured was not merely a means to an end, but a fundamental aspect of the spiritual journey itself, a testament to the individual's devotion and commitment to the divine. The ancient Greek understanding of sacrifice, therefore, was far more nuanced and complex than a simple act of appeasement. It was a deeply ingrained belief in the transformative power of suffering, a conviction that pain could serve as a catalyst for spiritual growth, a bridge connecting the mortal realm to the divine. This belief, however unsettling it may appear today, provides a powerful insight into the ancient Greek psyche and their profound relationship with the gods. The shadows of those ancient sacrifices still linger, reminding us of the enduring human fascination with the power of pain and its complex relationship with the spiritual. The flickering lamplight dances across the weathered stone walls, illuminating a scene of stark self-denial. A figure, cloaked in shadows, sits in silent contemplation, the rasp of their ragged breath the only sound breaking the oppressive stillness. This is not a moment of weakness, but a deliberate immersion in suffering, a calculated descent into the depths of the self in pursuit of a higher truth. For the ancient Greeks, pain was not merely something to be avoided. It was a potent catalyst for personal transformation, a crucible in which the soul could be forged anew. Their understanding of pain transcended the purely physical. It was not merely the sensation of agony, but a multifaceted experience encompassing emotional turmoil, mental anguish, and spiritual struggle. This multifaceted suffering was viewed as a necessary step on the path to self-knowledge, a means of stripping away the layers of illusion and revealing the true essence of the self. The process was arduous, demanding immense resilience, but the potential rewards were immense. A profound understanding of one's own nature, a heightened awareness of the human condition, and a closer connection to the divine. Consider the practices of asceticism, prevalent throughout ancient Greek society. These weren't simply acts of self-denial, they were deliberate strategies for pushing the boundaries of human endurance, for testing the limits of the self, and revealing its inherent strength. Fasting, sleep deprivation, exposure to the elements. These were not acts of self-flagellation, but calculated methods for cultivating resilience and self-mastery. The suffering endured was not seen as an end in itself, but a means of stripping away the superficial and revealing the underlying strength of the spirit. The ancient Greeks understood that true self-knowledge could only be achieved through confronting the shadow self, the darker aspects of human nature. And what better way to confront these shadows than through the crucible of pain? The experience of suffering, they believed, could reveal hidden vulnerabilities, expose deep-seated fears, and ultimately lead to a more profound understanding of the self. This self-knowledge was not simply intellectual, it was visceral, deeply felt, and profoundly transformative. The pursuit of self-knowledge through pain was not a passive endeavor. It required active engagement, a conscious decision to confront the suffering and learn from it. This was not a matter of stoically enduring pain. It was a process of active engagement, of analyzing the experience, of extracting meaning from the suffering. The goal was not to eliminate pain, but to transcend it, to use it as a springboard for spiritual growth and personal transformation. This approach, while seemingly extreme by modern standards, speaks to a deeper understanding of the human condition. It recognizes the inherent complexity of the self, the existence of both light and shadow within each individual. The ancient Greeks understood that true self-knowledge could not be achieved through the avoidance of pain, but through its direct confrontation, through the willingness to delve into the depths of one's own being and emerge stronger, wiser, and more fully realized. The path was fraught with peril, yet it held the promise of profound self-discovery. The echoes of their trials still resonate, reminding us of the enduring human quest for self-understanding. The chilling wind whispers secrets through the crumbling ruins of a forgotten temple, carrying with it the echoes of ancient anxieties. In the heart of ancient Greece, where the sun blazed down upon sun-drenched hills and the sea crashed against rocky shores, a profound understanding of mortality cast a long shadow over the human experience. The inevitability of death, a constant companion, shaped their perceptions of pain and suffering in ways that are both unsettling and illuminating. For the ancient Greeks, pain was not merely a physical sensation, it was a visceral reminder of the fragility of life, a stark confrontation with the ephemeral nature of existence. The body, susceptible to injury, illness, and ultimately death, served as a constant testament to our mortality. This awareness, far from being a source of despair, fueled a profound engagement with life's fleeting moments. The fear of death, a primal human emotion, played a significant role in shaping their understanding of suffering. The prospect of oblivion, the ultimate loss of self, cast a long shadow over their lives. This fear, however, did not lead to paralysis or despair, but rather to a heightened appreciation for the present moment, a desperate attempt to wrest meaning from a life destined to end. Suffering, in this context, took on a new dimension. It was not merely a negative experience to be avoided, but a potential catalyst for spiritual growth, a means of confronting the fear of death and finding meaning in the face of oblivion. The endurance of physical pain, the acceptance of suffering, could be seen as a form of preparation for the ultimate sacrifice, the surrender of life itself. Consider the rituals and practices surrounding death in ancient Greece, the elaborate funeral rites, the somber elegies, the offerings to the gods. These were not simply expressions of grief, but affirmations of life's fragility and a desperate attempt to make sense of the inexplicable. The willingness to confront one's mortality, to face the fear of death head-on, became a pathway to a deeper understanding of life's preciousness. Through the lens of mortality, pain became a teacher, a guide on the path to self-discovery. It was a reminder of the limitations of the physical body, but also a catalyst for exploring the boundless potential of the human spirit. The ancient Greeks, facing the constant specter of death, sought to transcend the physical limitations of their mortal existence through the cultivation of virtue, the pursuit of knowledge, and the unwavering acceptance of suffering. Pain, in this context, was not an impediment but a tool, a means of forging a stronger, more resilient self, better equipped to confront the ultimate challenge of mortality. Their enduring legacy reminds us that the fear of death, far from being a source of despair, can be a powerful motivator for living a life of purpose and meaning. The whispers of the past continue to challenge us to confront our own mortality and find meaning in the face of the inevitable. The whispers of the ancients echo through the ages, revealing a chilling pursuit: immortality through suffering. For the Greeks, the ephemeral nature of life fueled a desperate yearning for something more enduring, a legacy that would transcend the limitations of mortality. This yearning found expression in a profound belief that enduring extreme suffering could pave the path to a form of immortality, a lasting imprint on the world, a resonance beyond the grave. This wasn't merely a passive acceptance of hardship. It was an active engagement with pain, a calculated embrace of suffering as a means to an end. The physical body, frail and fleeting, was seen as a vessel to be tested, pushed to its limits, and ultimately transcended. Through rigorous asceticism, self-flagellation, and even the deliberate infliction of pain, individuals sought to forge a spirit tempered by adversity, a soul capable of enduring beyond the confines of earthly existence. The heroes of myth, enduring unimaginable trials and tribulations, served as powerful exemplars. Their struggles, their sacrifices, their unwavering resilience in the face of overwhelming odds became models for emulation, inspiring others to embrace suffering as a means of achieving heroic status, a form of immortality etched in the collective memory of their people. Their stories, passed down through generations, became living testaments to the power of suffering to shape destiny and leave an indelible mark on history. This pursuit of immortality through suffering wasn't confined to the realm of myth. It permeated the lives of ordinary individuals. The ascetic practices, often rigorous and self-denying, were not merely acts of religious devotion, but also expressions of a deeper yearning for lasting significance. By pushing their physical and mental endurance to the breaking point, they sought to transcend the limitations of their mortal existence, to forge a spirit unyielding to the ravages of time and decay. The enduring legacy of this belief is etched into the very fabric of ancient Greek culture. The emphasis on heroism, the celebration of resilience, the unwavering pursuit of excellence, these are all testaments to the profound influence of this belief system. It shaped their values, their actions, their very understanding of what it meant to live a meaningful life. It was a desperate, perhaps even self-destructive, attempt to conquer the fear of oblivion, to leave a mark on the world that would endure long after the body had returned to dust. The echoes of this desperate pursuit reverberate still, a haunting reminder of the human yearning for immortality and the lengths to which we will go to achieve it. The shadow of this belief continues to cast a long shadow over our understanding of suffering and the human quest for lasting significance. The shadows of Olympus cast long fingers across the landscape of ancient Greece, obscuring the darker truths beneath the veneer of philosophical idealism. While the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment through suffering held a certain allure for the individual, The manipulation of pain for social control cast a chilling pall over the body politic. The power structures of ancient Greece, intricate and often brutal, wielded suffering as a tool to maintain order, enforce obedience, and solidify social hierarchies. The stark reality of ancient Greek society reveals a system where pain wasn't merely a means to personal growth. It was a weapon wielded by those in power. Slaves, subjected to relentless toil and brutal punishments, bore the brunt of this systematic infliction of suffering. Their bodies, broken and scarred, served as a constant reminder of their subordinate status, a living testament to the power wielded by their masters. The very fabric of their lives was woven with threads of pain, a constant, inescapable reality that reinforced the rigid social order. Beyond the blatant subjugation of slaves, the subtle manipulation of pain permeated other aspects of social control. Public floggings, often meted out for minor infractions, served as a spectacle of power, a stark warning to those who dared to challenge the established order. The agony inflicted, witnessed by all, reinforced the dominance of the ruling class, and instilled a pervasive fear that maintained social conformity. The legal system, far from being a bastion of justice, often utilized torture to extract confessions and punish perceived transgressions. The accused, stripped of their dignity and subjected to unimaginable pain, were often forced to confess to crimes they did not commit, merely to escape the torment. This system, shrouded in the guise of justice, further entrenched the power of the ruling elite and solidified the social hierarchy. Innocence was no shield against the sharp edge of pain wielded by those in power to maintain their control. Even within the seemingly egalitarian frameworks of the polis, the manipulation of pain served to maintain social order. Exclusion from the community, ostracism, and the resulting social isolation could be as devastating as physical torture. The fear of banishment, of being cast out from the protective embrace of society, served as a powerful deterrent against dissenting voices and unconventional behavior. This subtle, yet pervasive, form of social control ensured conformity and maintained the status quo. The societal fabric was held together not only by laws and customs, but also by the ever-present threat of pain, wielded subtly and overtly to preserve the delicate balance of power. The whispers of suffering echo through the annals of ancient Greece, revealing a complex interplay between spiritual ideals and the cold reality of power. The echoing chambers of ancient Greek philosophy, while resonating with the cries of self-imposed suffering, also whispered of rebellion. The dominant ascetic norms, though presented as paths to enlightenment, were not universally embraced. Voices of dissent, though often muted by the weight of tradition and power, challenged the prevailing narratives of pain and spiritual growth. These dissenting voices, arising from unexpected corners of society, remind us that even in the face of seemingly unshakable authority, the human spirit yearns for freedom. The cynics, with their radical rejection of societal norms and embrace of a simple, austere life, offered a stark contrast to the self-flagellation and ritualistic pain embraced by others. Their defiance wasn't merely a rejection of societal expectations. It was a profound critique of the very foundations of the ascetic ideal. They questioned the necessity of suffering, proposing that true virtue lay not in self-inflicted torment, but in living in accordance with nature and reason. Their unconventional lifestyles, often bordering on provocative, served as a challenge to the established order, a testament to the enduring human spirit's ability to resist oppressive ideologies, even those cloaked in the guise of spiritual purity. Within the Epicurean school of thought, a different form of resistance emerged. While not explicitly rejecting the possibility of suffering, Epicureans emphasized the pursuit of pleasure and the avoidance of pain as central to a fulfilling life. Their philosophy, a direct counterpoint to the ascetic ideals, prioritized tranquility and freedom from anxiety. They offered a path to spiritual well-being that didn't necessitate self-inflicted torment, questioning the very notion that suffering was essential for spiritual growth. Their emphasis on moderation and rational living challenged the extremes of ascetic practices, suggesting a more balanced and humane approach to life's complexities. Beyond the philosophical schools, individual acts of resistance punctuated the landscape of ancient Greece. While documentation is scarce, the very existence of alternative spiritual practices, often marginalized and suppressed, suggests a widespread discontent with the dominant ascetic norms. These secret rituals and hidden beliefs, passed down through generations, represent a silent rebellion against the officially sanctioned forms of spiritual discipline. These hidden practices, shrouded in secrecy and mystery, offer a poignant glimpse into the resilience of the human spirit and its enduring capacity to resist oppressive systems. The stories of individuals who resisted the dominant ascetic norms, although fragmented and often obscured by the passage of time, are vital. These acts of rebellion, whether overt or subtle, highlight the enduring human capacity to question authority, to challenge prevailing ideologies, and to forge alternative pathways to self-understanding and spiritual growth. They serve as a reminder that the pursuit of enlightenment doesn't necessitate self-destruction, and that the human spirit, even when burdened by suffering, retains its inherent power to resist, to challenge, and to ultimately prevail. The echoes of these acts of defiance resonate through the ages, reminding us that even in the darkest corners of history, the flame of resistance burns brightly. The path to enlightenment, it seems, is not always paved with pain. The whispers of ancient rituals, the echoes of self-inflicted pain, these were not merely individual acts of devotion, they were the threads weaving the tapestry of ancient Greek social identity. Ascesis, the practice of self-discipline and rigorous training, transcended the individual, shaping communities and reinforcing social hierarchies. The shared experience of suffering, however extreme, forged bonds, creating a sense of collective purpose and shared identity within specific groups. Consider the mystery cults, shrouded in secrecy and demanding intense commitment from their initiates. The ordeal of initiation, often involving ritualized pain and deprivation, served not only as a test of individual fortitude, but also as a powerful bonding experience. The shared suffering solidified the group's identity, creating an exclusive community bound by a collective secret, a shared trauma, and a unique spiritual understanding. The initiatory rites, far from being merely individual trials, were mechanisms for social integration, forging a powerful sense of belonging within a chosen community. Within the military context, the relentless training and endurance tests were not merely physical exercises. They were instruments of social cohesion, transforming individual soldiers into a unified fighting force. The shared experience of pain and hardship fostered loyalty and camaraderie, creating a powerful collective identity essential for battlefield success. The relentless physical and mental demands forged a sense of shared purpose, exceeding the mere sum of individual soldiers and creating a formidable, unified force. The battlefield, a crucible of extreme suffering, became a forge for collective identity. The ascetic practices of certain religious orders further illustrate this intricate relationship between individual discipline and collective identity. The shared rituals, the communal lifestyle, and the collective adherence to strict rules created a strong sense of belonging and purpose. The shared commitment to a demanding lifestyle fostered a powerful collective identity, reinforcing the group's social cohesion and shaping its relationship with the broader society. These groups, bound together by their shared commitment to extreme self-discipline, stood as potent examples of how individual ascetic practices could shape social dynamics. However, this intertwining of individual and collective identities was not without its darker aspects. The shared experience of suffering could be used to maintain social hierarchies and to exclude those deemed unworthy. The rigorous demands of certain ascetic practices served as effective barriers, creating an exclusive community and reinforcing social divisions. The very rituals designed to foster unity could become instruments of social control, wielding pain and exclusion as tools to maintain the existing power structures. The legacy of ancient Greek asceticism is complex. It reveals a profound connection between individual practices of self-discipline and the creation of collective identities. Yet, it also highlights the potential for these practices to be used as instruments of social control and exclusion. The echoes of these ancient practices remind us of the enduring power of collective identity and the potential for both unity and division within shared experiences of suffering. The balance, as always, remains precarious. The shadowed halls of ancient Greek medicine held a complex relationship with pain. While modern sensibilities recoil at the thought, the ancient healers often viewed suffering not as an affliction to be eradicated, but as a potential pathway, a twisted, shadowed road, perhaps toward understanding the body and spirit. Their understanding of the human condition was interwoven with the belief that enduring pain could lead to spiritual growth, a notion echoed in the ascetic practices prevalent throughout their society. The physicians of the time, figures both revered and feared, possessed a deep understanding of the human anatomy, gleaned from careful observation and, sometimes, grim experimentation. Their treatments, a blend of herbal remedies, surgical procedures, and philosophical guidance, often involved managing pain rather than eliminating it entirely. The suffering endured during illness was seen as a part of the healing process, a necessary trial to be overcome on the path to recovery. Consider the practice of bloodletting, a common treatment for a vast array of ailments. While viewed with horror today, it was believed to restore balance to the humors, the four bodily fluids thought to govern health. The pain inflicted during this procedure, though often intense, was accepted as a necessary step toward restoring equilibrium and ensuring the patient's well-being. The act was not merely a medical intervention. It was a ritual, a symbolic sacrifice, meant to appease the unseen forces influencing the body and soul. Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, while advocating for a more rational approach to healing, still acknowledged the role of pain in the patient's journey. His emphasis on observation and natural remedies, while a significant step forward, did not entirely reject the notion that suffering could be a catalyst for healing. The Hippocratic Oath, though focused on the well-being of the patient, doesn't explicitly denounce pain as an inherently negative experience. The subtle implication remains, even in the pursuit of healing, the shadow of suffering still lingers. However, the intersection of ancient Greek medicine and their views on spiritual growth becomes even more intricate when we consider the overlap with the practices of asceticism and self-mortification. The deliberate infliction of pain, whether physical or psychological, was often seen as a means to achieve spiritual enlightenment, to transcend the limitations of the physical body, and to forge a stronger connection with the divine. This pursuit of transcendence, however, often blurred the lines between medical treatment and spiritual discipline, creating a landscape where pain served multiple, and sometimes conflicting, purposes.